Everyone stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Call the meeting to order. Bob?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Amen. Attendance, everyone here on the board except Amber. Minutes of the regular township board meeting, August 14th, 2024.
I would look for approval of the minutes meeting of August 14th.
As presented. Okay, second by Bob. Any other discussion by anybody? None being heard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed, that's carried. Amend agenda. I'd just like to do two things. I'd like to move up Carla under new business, and I'd like to move Jim from Harbor Commission up right after Carla. If that's okay. Does anybody have anything else? Nada. Okay, public comment.
Hi, I'm Paige Keston.
Yes, Paige, how are you?
Good. I live right across the street from where you moved.
Right, we've talked back and forth. Paige lives across the street from where the recycling trailers are now. She had concerns, so I told her to come to the board. So there you go.
So that road used to have maybe 12 cars going a day. Now there's hundreds, and I'm not joking. It's never ending right in front of my house. And there's people just leave garbage and whatever over there. Boxes are overflowing. The noise, it's constant noise, constant cars. One of the reasons I moved there is because it was nice and quiet. And yeah, the view, we have great view.
There's the semi in over our house.
Yeah,
And flies. Ever since recycling came there, we have an infestation of flies. We don't like it there.
Okay. All right. We'll take it under advisement, so that's fine.
I mean, if you moved it on the other side of the fairgrounds, there's no,
On the other side.
on Jones Road, there are no houses.
Okay, so I can only answer that because the county fair board would not allow us to leave that on the fairgrounds property. That's why it got moved to begin with.
And so that's not the fairgrounds property that it's moved to, or?
Yes, that's a separate piece, but they would not allow us to leave it on the fairgrounds proper property.
Okay.
How's that? And this is a temporary spot until we find a different location. So that,
And I have no idea, but what about the county road commission? I mean, that corner is huge. Is there any way to move something like that there?
I don't want to put Brad on the spot, but that's county road commission property. That's not the county's property per se. That's a separate unit of government also, so. We've tried a couple different locations and that ended up being the temporary location now just because it was close and it was easy to do.
Do we know how temporary that is? No.
No, but the county owns the other piece on the other side, Jones Road, next to your house. That was a proposed location. I mean, it's all commercial there. The other piece by the road we were gonna buy originally, and it would have been right there. Would have been back almost in the same spot as it is now, but about 150 feet to the west.
So,
That was back from Christmas time, if I'm not mistaken, or the end of the year.
okay, are you talking about the property that's?
For sale right now, yes.
Okay. And what about the piece right across, just north?
County owns that.
County owns that? Because you told me before that, if there was a grant, or you were trying to get a grant to put something there on that. I mean, even that, then they wouldn't come down to my house.
Well, like I said, that process, Carla can address some of that when she talks about it, but if you wait and stay long enough to hear her presentation, maybe some of that will be answered. Okay, thank you. Next. Go ahead, I'll just go in order front to back.
Captain Moransky, I have a concern about Emerald Ridge Trail that I brought up before the township board. I know Bob has taken a look at it. And I would just like Emerald Ridge Street to be put on the road committee to look at for the spring of 2025, to have the road redone or the potholes filled in. It has never been chipped and sealed and it's 26 years old.
Okay, thanks, Pat.
Okay.
Joe?
I've got papers for y'all. You can share them.
Thank you.
So my name is Joseph Suchaki. I'm a township and village resident. And I appreciate the opportunity to share concerns that's expressed by village business owners and members and residents regarding the Onekama Trail project. I'm providing you with a copy of my comments today, and anybody else who wants them can get them from me. And a questions and answers and concerns paper summarizing the concerns of village residents and business owners. The paper, which you may or may not have seen in earlier versions, been circulated, also offers alternative concepts to the proposed trail for your review and consideration. I ask that my comments and paper be included in the minutes of this meeting. The information in my paper is a product of interviews with all but one of the village's business owners, and over 85 village residents. After I became aware of the project, I asked people if they were aware and shared what I had learned about the project in meetings with some of the subcommittee members. I did interviews in August before the recent open house. I learned that village businesses and residents were never contacted regarding the trail concept or feasibility study. It would seem like a valid and unbiased study would have been initiated in April, or the study was initiated in April, and it would have seemed like they would have made contact in the village, possibly through focus group meetings, before the open house at the end of August. Everyone I contacted pretty much asked where this project came from, who was behind it, why it felt like a well-kept secret, and if it was needed when there were more desirable improvements to be done in the village. You might ask, did I take steps to talk with the project's team and share questions, concerns, and possible alternatives? The answer is yes. First, I talked with some trail project team members to review the concerns and alternatives listed in my paper. Each of those discussions produced 3 results. I was told there were no acceptable alternatives. I should calm down because a feasibility study was underway to see if the trail was possible or feasible, and nothing was final yet. Yet upon discovering actions such as grant applications and apparent final decisions at a meeting, it created an appearance that it was set in stone. I was told that I should not be willing to abandon $3 million in village improvements over simple parking concerns. Next, I attended a trail committee meeting last month before the open house on August 29th. There, the feasibility engineer explained the final decision was to use the south side of M22 and replace that parking lane through the village with a proposed bike trail. It seemed to indicate that there was no opportunity for discussion. Again, it felt like things were set in stone. Before the open house, I discovered that a grant for funding beyond the trail study for additional things had been applied for in May, even though the feasibility study had just been initiated in April and remains incomplete today. I asked, how do you apply for grants without knowing if the concept is feasible unless the project's outcome has been decided or set in stone? I attended the last Parks and Rec Committee meeting following the open house. I was encouraged there because I heard statements indicating there might be room for flexibility in the project and considering alternatives. One member of the committee stated that they might have to consider alternatives. Another member stated that he used to use the alleys as an alternative route in riding his bike into the village when he owned the wine shop, and perhaps that offered an alternative. Ed Bradford suggested pausing any further grant applications until a feasibility study is complete. And he said the project's timeline might be too aggressive. It may take until next year to gain board approval. And if the project were not approved, they would have to return the grant funds. However, now I'm going to read from what I had prepared this morning. However, I've not seen the Park and Rec's minutes to confirm a pause in grant applications and less aggressive timelines. Late this morning, they were posted. There was no mention of any of the comments that I just made by members or by Ed Bradford. 2 years ago, well, let's see, I've only lived here 3 years, and as stated earlier, I'm passionate about the village. I'm kind of nervous right now. Hard to hold my paper steady and read it at the same time. And I used to do thousands of public seminars a year. Being retired throws you out of practice. I'm passionate about the village. And I believe that I go by this philosophy. I can't believe somebody should simply complain about issues. You need to get involved. You need to bring solutions when you get involved. And I believe in negotiating, and that's how things get done. 2 years ago, after a letter to the editor of the Advocate that the village of Onekama was in a death spiral, I founded Onekama Collaborative Recovery, or OCR, a small group of independent citizens to stop the spiral and make something positive happen. OCR started with a new event stage, which we now have. Like it or not, that's what we did. Seeing it as a solution to the problem of a portable, deteriorating performance platform and a positive statement that the village was willing to change. We've raised approximately $250,000 to fund the stage and also rebuilding of the main pavilion, which will happen next spring. I'm a champion for the village, at least that's the way I feel. And I love opportunities for improvements. Am I against the trail? Some aspects as presented are no, and some are a yes, but require clarity and further discussion. As the questions and answer paper states, if you read it, get a copy and read it, most residents, non-residents, and businesses favor improving the village's aging sidewalks, streetscaping, which could help slow down traffic, street lighting and walkability along M22, and promoting well-being and active lifestyles. There's a strong appetite in the community, and has been for a long time, for an improved walking trail or route. And you'll see that in the first recommended alternative of 3. I've been accused recently of fear-mongering and spreading false information. Unfortunately, I do realize this happens when questions are asked about a process that lacks transparency. I'm simply trying to raise awareness on both sides of the fence and find a common ground. If there's a sense of fear, it's because of the unknowns and lack of involvement with the village businesses and residents. Early transparency and broader community involvement might have better served the trail project to this point. As village residents, we're asking for transparency and participation, especially since the proposed trail would significantly impact the village. I hope there will be more public meetings, as said, where the project's team will finally present a clear picture of their intentions and plan and allow for an open discussion. A meeting enabling everyone to hear the same presentation at the same time as a group and voice support, concerns, or opposition will benefit all parties. Thanks for your opportunity to share the information, and I've attached a copy of the questions and concerns. If you'd like a copy, see me after the meeting.
Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Dave.
You're welcome. Public comments still. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'm Deb Noonan and I live in the village, and thanks so much, Joe, for all his hard work. And I'm here to talk about the people, about the bike trail. And all of us, I agree with Joe, and I think most of us want to help the village. We want the village to be vibrant. How we do that is a matter of discussion and negotiation. I'm here really to represent the people who own property on the south side of M22. Because according to the updated feasibility study, the bike trail is gonna extend 15 feet into people's property. Well, I think they're gonna take off the front door of the church, for starters, if this is accurate, okay? There are other houses, I think the half house, which is, those of you who've been here a long time, remember there's a big battle about that. I think they're also gonna lose something, maybe the box that goes around the sewer, right? But the real issue here, beyond the property owners, and I will admit I am one, but I also own property on the other side, so no matter where it goes, I'll contribute something. My primary concern is twofold. First of all, cost. Property owners are gonna have to be compensated. Where is that money gonna come from? Even if that property is condemned, that's a long legal process, and it's gonna cost the village money, it's gonna cost the township money, and we don't have a lot of money, right? And, there are a lot of places that money could be spent elsewhere, like maybe getting water to the fountain. There's an idea. I think the other thing is that the property, as we know, in the last year and a half has doubled in value, right? I have a 115-year-old structure. The taxable value is probably less than a nice truck, all right? My value is in the lakefront property. So I'm here to raise the issue of cost, right? And the concerns about that. How is this going to be paid for? And then something Joe has brought up, how if we do this, how is it going to be maintained? Right now, the garden club maintains an awful lot in this city. Are we gonna ask those women to maintain the green space? And my last concern is, and maybe I'm borrowing trouble here, we have property as we go to where M22 occurs. I don't own it, but there's property there. All that is needed, if you start putting things along the lakeside, is one person with deep pockets to buy a piece of that property and then ask for a zoning variance. And when they don't get it, go to court. This has happened before. What I don't want to see, what none of us want to see, is something like Crystal Lake, where you cannot see the lake. You can't see it because there's structure after structure after structure. So I rest my case, and thanks for listening. I think there's a way out of this. I'm not sure what it is. Somebody told me there's a plan for a bike path that was done 20 years ago that winds through the village. I think that plan is around someplace. I think that's all. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else for right now? Gone.
Well, we got online folks.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there anybody that's online that would like to make a public comment? If so, just unmute yourself and let us know.
Going, gone, just like the auction, you had your chance. Financial report, balance sheet. Anybody have any questions on? No, monthly input, okay. Clerk's report, do we have a clerk's report? No. Okay. Treasurer's report?
So my report was in your packet. Interest rates are still holding up for now because the Fed hasn't started cutting yet. So we're earning a decent yield on our surplus cash. Summer property taxes are due on the 14th, but because that's a Saturday, you have on Monday, the 16th to pay them. The office will be open from 9 to 5 p.m. After that, interest will apply. And the other items I have in my report, we're going to be discussing later on the agenda.
Correct, okay. Questions, anybody? No? County commissioners are not gonna be here today. Jeff notified me he would not be here either, so we'll move on to new business. Carla wanted to be moved up, Jim has moved up. I'd like to add Brad on after those two, so he doesn't have to be here all evening also. Brad, is that fine?
Whatever.
Okay, Carla, go ahead, recycle.
Okay, I just want to let you guys know that last month we had our largest month in the county. We had 80,000 pounds of recycling in recycling bins throughout the county. That's the largest amount we've ever had. So it continues to grow. And to talk about a little bit about what you had talked about for the last year, we've been trying to find a site in Onekama. It's not easy. It's gotta be public property, and, you know.
Accessible, Mark.
Yes, and accessible. So when it got moved from here, it went to the fairgrounds. Well, the fairgrounds, it can't be there during the fair. So with that being said, you know, we looked for another place that we could have it temporary until we can finally find a home, which we've been looking for several years now. That was the ideal place. It wasn't far from the original place to move it. It had the access, it has the road structure that we need for, cross laws and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's one of the reasons it kind of ended up there. And the county owns that piece of property right there. So that's how it ended up there. We have wrote several grants to try, you know, for properties here in Onekama Township. We've been unsuccessful for infrastructure grants for recycling. We're not giving up. We don't give up easy, to find a permanent home for it. And I understand that road in the 1960s, what, John Street was commissioned by the fair committee to get to the back side of the fairgrounds. Because my father actually built that road. But I understand your concern. We have people come out and on site at least 3 times a week to pick up, make sure stuff doesn't go around. And not that I'm trying to separate myself from the PCA trailer, but the cardboard trailer is not part of the other type of recycling that goes on. That is part of the school project. The school gets the funding for that, and the school is responsible for taking care of that. They don't necessarily do a great job, but there's a lot of people in your community that does go and take care of that. So, and I also brought a renewal of the contract.
We're gonna deal with it. Yeah, Ed, you wanna address that?
So, Cindy and I are gonna work on that, because it's not acceptable, at least for the two of us, the way it is. Obviously, the board has to make the final decision, so I think there's gonna be some back and forth. The addendum that we signed extends the current interlocal agreement past its expiration date, so we've got time. There's not a huge. We'll both be working on it.
So one of the things we gotta watch is the end of the year and the end of the fiscal year going into the tax year. Because if it's not signed by a certain time, the agreement, it voids, you're not on a tax roll.
So I guess that'll have to be discussed. Maybe we can talk to Lisa and our attorney, but the addendum that we signed extends the interlocal agreement as written. So it shouldn't have any concerns there, but we can work through that when we look at it.
But it extends,
I mean, we were sensitive to that,
Right.
and so we actually put that language in, and although the county changed some of the language in our original proposed addendum.
They left
did
that
not
in,
change that
yeah.
language.
and that goes, technically it goes, the terms go from physical year to physical year. However, the contracts need to be.
Right, we'll work it out. I think it's okay, but we'll figure it out. Okay,
But
thanks, Carla.
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, David, you want to ask her something?
No, I wanted to just, related to recycling, my other hat is chair of the Manistee Conservation District. On the 17th of August, we had our annual household hazardous waste, where we collect somewhere in the neighborhood of around 30,000 pounds of household hazardous waste, pesticides, fluorescent tubes, and then also electronics and scrap metal. This year we had a little bit of a surprise. A county resident purchased a farm And, the man he purchased it from had bought pesticide and fertilizer a long time ago and put it in his barn and then forgot about it. And so he showed up at, the event on that Saturday with 27,000 pounds of fertilizer and pesticide and 800 gallons of liquid material. Which,
Was any of it usable?
none of it was usable. It was
What?
basically the consistency of cinder blocks.
Oh, okay.
But it was all on pallets and,
Okay.
we,
You took it all, right?
we took it and then we realized, the cost involved. As chair of the conservation district, I said, well, it's better that we take it than, it just leach into the soil. But we were able to work with the state of Michigan and, almost all of the costs has been covered
Okay,
by the
good.
state. And the hazardous waste has been disposed of, so.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
I'm not sure if people realize it, but it's like when you come in, well, I don't know how much that will offset. But when you come in, they ask you for $15 when you bring a carload of stuff in. It usually costs over $90 to take care of that. So it's like, you know, everybody's,
Yeah.
it's $15 is a lot of money.
No, it's not.
But not when it costs $100 plus
Okay.
to dispose of everything correctly.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Jim,
Nothing new on the permit for the dredging at the launch site in our launch.
okay,
We're looking at alternative fundings for getting the rest of that lot paved,
okay,
so we're working on it. We'll bring it when we get it.
okay. Very good. Anything else? No, very good. Thank you very much. Brad, you're up. Welcome.
Thank you.
You might, I don't know, most of the people will not know you. This is, so Brad is the new road commission manager.
For you, once the original. Yes, I started with the road commission in February of this year. And the former manager retired mid-March, and I've been running along, trying to get things up to speed. And we are making some drastic changes in how we deal with roads within the whole Manistee County area. So I am here today to inform this board as well as the citizens of some of the things that we have started doing and what we're going to continue to be doing over the next several years. As I have talked to our board, and our board is supportive of the process. And we are implementing a asset management system to all of our roads. So rather than simply fix the worst first, we're putting money into good roads to keep the good roads good. Because the longer you can keep them good, the better. It's a lot cheaper to keep a good road good. It's like when you own a car, if you get a scratch, you're better off painting it than letting it till the door rests and you have to replace the door. You change the oil in your car. It's the same basic principles. It's just that we are focused on that really in great detail now. Whereas in the past, it's kind of been, okay, we're working with townships and doing some things with townships, but we're becoming very aggressive. So as of this year, we've started a new program and we are doing a lot of what is called skip paving. And that is repair of roads that are in reasonable condition by putting down spots of asphalt with a paver so that we can level the road out, get it prepped and get it nice and traversable without a new surface necessarily, but at least getting it to the point where it's ready to go. We started just because it was next to Ron Brown and Sons, which is where we were getting our material. We wanted to start close to him. So over the course of this summer, we were able to complete every paved road in Pleasanton Township and every paved road in Arcadia Township. Okay, this next year, we're coming to your township.
So I'm here to let everybody know what we have planned for next year. And I have a list of roads that we're going to be putting down a lot of this patching, and then working with this board. It is our hope then that they can take some of their money and allocate it towards a chip seal, because once we're done with this, we'd like to cover everything with a chip seal, because that'll give us 7 years of life without ever having to touch that road again. So the following roads are kind of where we're planning on looking for doing some skip paving within your township. We have Maidens, Smith, Erdman, Bar, Emerald Ridge Trail, Herkelworth Drive,
Thank you.
paved portion, the little bit of 9 Mile, but we're gonna be coming all the way from 31 down 9 Mile. Millark from 8 Mile to Brant, Lakeview, and Potter. So there's a bunch of areas here that are all intertwined. And it's our hope then that at the end of next summer, every paved road that is within the township outside the village limits, because the village limits, those are their roads, not ours, but outside the village limits, every paved road should be taken care of. And then between what they've already been doing here with resurfacing and some of the projects we have planned, it is our hope then that this township would at the following year in 26 be able to start hitting these with chip seal and not have to worry about the roads for the next 7 years. And then at that point, you can start picking off some of the ones that are needed for maybe a resurfacing or needed to be, because the ride condition is so bad, they can start dealing with some of that. Those are much more expensive, however. And then when you start talking about paving some of the dirt sections of road that need it because the traffic volumes are increasing, that's also very pricey. So the nice thing for the townships is we're gonna do all this. In the past, it's been done as part of a project. So we would always go in, we'd hire a contractor to do the patching, and then we'd cover it with chip seal. That whole project would be divided, and if it's a local road, the township would pay 50%. And the road commission would pay 50%. As part of this new plan, 100% of this patching is covered by the road commission. We are not asking for a dime from the township to get these roads prepped, but they will have to participate in the project when we start contracting out work for chip seal. So it is our hope then that, we'll have some good, and we've worked well with them. They've been doing projects every year pretty much for as long as I can track back. So we're gonna be looking to see a lot of improvements. Be patient with us. It's not gonna look pretty for that first year. It's gonna make the road better, but it does not look like a brand new road, because you got a patch of blacktop that's brand new, and then you've got the center of the road that's old, and then you got a patch maybe here on the other side, and you've got some areas that we're gonna fill in some dips and some irregularities in the traveling path. But it's gonna end up being a long-term benefit for everybody, and you're gonna have roads that last much, much longer. I've been doing this since '92. And I will say that I have seen roads, instead of lasting 20 years, I've seen roads last 45 years by doing proper preventive maintenance. So it's our hope that we can start doing a 7-year rotation through the townships, chip sealing all of their paved roads.
Okay, Brad, when you get an estimate, you'll have an estimate about chip seal after sometime
After
next.
we get done
Yeah,
next
that's
year.
fine, okay.
So, because this will be something, we are
For
already committed
26.
for 25, because we just got a commitment. Pleasanton is doing 100% of their roads. Arcadia is doing almost 2/3 of their roads, but they spent a large portion of their funds, so they don't have much of a balance right now. So they're gonna do a large portion next year, and then the following year, they're gonna pick up another portion.
Well, I don't think you named them off. There's not much left.
No,
Okay,
no, so for you guys, I mean, we're gonna be done
okay.
with you guys, and then you'll be able to chip seal. And then you can start looking at some of your larger, issues that might exist, and we can start talking about other improvements that can be made,
So after November, you won't see him anymore.
okay?
He's
Well,
done. We'll have to have another representative. So we'll keep up on that as soon as we get a bid, not a bid, but an estimated cost, because we're working in our budget, obviously.
yeah,
And with any other project we need to talk about. So, and these two today, you brought me the invoices.
yes,
We'll get those taken care of.
Okay, yeah, and we are setting it up with a electronic system. Because we are now connected to MDOT's Project Wise, so we're gonna start seeing invoices come quick, they're gonna
Okay.
be routed. And you guys will be part of the routing chain, so if it says Onekama Township, it'll be routed to you, so you'll see it much more rapidly than what we're seeing now.
Okay,
Got a few questions
Anytime.
if you'll indulge me. So we've done asset management for a really long time in the city. It's a great program and it saves costs and it makes the roads better and it's what the state kind of requires. So I'm glad are you guys gonna be doing your pacer rating once a year instead of?
We are going to hit we still hit every paved road or every federally
Right.
fundable road every year.
Correct.
That is
Are you
required.
rating local roads?
We are in the process right now.
Okay.
We are 2/3 of the way done with all of the locals.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as we're done with the locals, we're gonna start doing another project that's called MBR, which is the same type of thing, but it's for analyzing gravel roads.
right,
And so we're going to be doing that also. Now, those for the gravel roads, they figure you do it once, you do it 2 years later, and then you do it every 5 years. You just kind of get a feel for which ones are shifting, and then you do those, because it's just, you know, depending on how it was graded and everything, there's not gonna be much of a change.
So,
But Pacer, we're planning on doing at least every year for the next 4 years, so we can start building that deduct curve,
federal aid and local.
everything,
Okay.
every paved road.
So once you guys get to the point, I mean, I think, and that's 4 years out, but I think we'd be interested potentially in having, if you're only doing federal aid roads annual, I think we'd like all of our paved roads done annually. So
Yeah.
we've got that good.
And we are, this year is our first year, we're gonna do it for 4 years straight,
Okay.
every year. And then we'll see what our deduct curves are. If we can start building the deduct curves, we may cut back to every other year and do them every other year for the rest of them, depending on how we're seeing what's happening in the roads. There are some roads that you really need to evaluate every year because of the fact that they're at that peak. And if you don't catch them, you're gonna start seeing drop off on that curve.
Is the road commission with the new law that they updated, I don't know, 2 or 3 years ago, because you guys have more than 100 miles, you're required to do an asset management plan that you
Yes.
submit to the state. Has that been done yet or?
It was not done before I got here. I am working on it.
Yeah.
I am waiting for this Pacer data, and as soon as I have the Pacer data, I will be creating the
Okay.
asset management report. I've got the basic framework of it, but our asset management report is not going to be just the state mandated, because the state right now, they ask for surface. They ask for streetlights or signals, which we have none in the whole county, so that's a good thing. Those are either the cities or the states. And then they also ask now for culverts. So, but we are actually taking it a step farther. We're bringing in signs, we're bringing in our pavement markings, we're bringing in things outside the right of way. So we're doing an asset management plan for all of our trucks, our buildings, you name it. If it's something that we've done, and I've been, like I say, I've been doing this, I've done parks, I've done beaches, I've done ramps, I've done airports, you name it, I've done asset management pretty much on it in the past.
Could you speak, because we've had a lot of questions about it, about the work that was done on Bayview and why the paving was done as opposed to chip sealing and whatever, just so it can get recorded, we can get it out on the.
That's
thing.
the one that was done,
the one bill right here.
okay.
Yeah.
So when we went out there and started looking at that, the road surface appeared to be in reasonable shape, but there were structural issues. And we were finding that when we were riding with our bigger trucks over it, you could see some motion in the pavement. So anytime you have motion in the pavement, if you don't add some structural strength to that road, nothing's gonna hold up. And especially something, a chip seal that's only 3/8 of an inch thick is not going to really make much of a difference. It's gonna fall apart, it's gonna be scraped. And when our plows hit roads that are flexible at all, the blade will scrape that chip seal right off. So we tried to add in some structural strength and get that actually into a condition that's gonna be a long-term improvement, so that in the course of the next probably 3 years, we're gonna come to you and say, hey, according to the study that was done in Minnesota, which there's a study that they spent 25 years doing. The first 3 years are critical to get out and actually chip seal a new asphalt, because that's when you want to save that oxidation from sunlight, because like anything else, sunlight dries it out and starts getting to be brittle. So, you know, we'd be looking at, once we're sure that the road is holding up and we don't have anything that needs to be cut out and repaired, we're gonna ask them to put that on the chip seal list too, just because the chip seal is a wearable product and it protects the surface so that you don't have the oxidation and you don't have that residual cracking, because you will always see cracking in asphalt. Chip seal is so flexible that every time it hits about 92 degrees, it starts sealing itself back up.
Okay. And you guys, I'd like to ask, you didn't say, the gravel roads, when do you think you'll have them, the rating done on that? By the end of this?
Yeah, so that one, we are, as soon as we are done, this is the last month of the fiscal year for MDOT. So we are spending 100% of our time trying to get their money
right.
spent, because they want us to get a lot of improvements made on 55 and 115 on the shoulders and that. So as soon as we're done there, so October-ish first, then Brad, I don't know if you guys know Brad Blackstone.
Oh, yeah, very well.
So he's gonna be going out and evaluating and
Okay.
doing the MBR on all of our gravel roads. I would guess, because it is a first go around, he's gonna be a little bit slower, so it's probably gonna take him every bit of 3 weeks to a month, because he has other things to do too. Our pacer for all of our paved roads, we've put in 2 days and a half, and we're about 2/3 of the way, maybe a little bit further done with all of our paved roads. So pacers are very quick. The MBR is a little more, because you sometimes have to get out and actually look at some things and get a feel for whether it's soft or firm or what.
Okay.
So last thing I have, actually two things. We're gonna be starting our budgeting process probably this year a little bit earlier than we have in the past.
Okay.
So do you have, or maybe we, and I know you haven't bid it yet, but maybe if we could, go offline and get a good estimate for what you think 11 Mile might be. Might for the cost of that potentially, or a ballpark, if we can bracket it. Or
I have the engineer's estimate, which was given to me, and we have reviewed it, and I can give that to you.
Okay.
I don't have it here.
Yeah,
No, that's
no,
fine.
whatever,
But-
that's as good as anything, and then at some point, it might be nice on those roads that we're gonna chip seal in 26. If we, I mean, even if it was like, you could tally up the mile and give us a ballpark per mile or whatever, chip seal, and I could work into some longer range budgeting,
So-
would be good for that.
So our basic feeling is your typical roads, we assume 25 feet wide. Most of them are 24, but you put 25 because it kind of gives you an idea. So we go with 25 feet wide, and then we calculate a square yardage cost. And the square yardage right now with the fog is running us about 278, I think is what it was last year. We're assuming 285 next year per square yard.
Okay.
Well, I just need to know how many square yards.
Yeah, so you just need the length,
Yeah.
and I'll do the lengths for you.
Do the
That
length
I
and
can
do that.
Quickly.
And not to
That'd
go
be-
back,
That'd be really helpful.
to go back to that list, did you say Potter Road was on that list or not? Potter?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's
There's a
fine.
big portion of Potter Road. We do have an area that's in good shape that we're going to want to chip seal, but I don't know. Some of it's not in your township, some of it is.
Some of it's in Bear Lake is,
Yeah,
That's the bad.
that's the bad
that's the
spot.
real bad
Oh,
stuff,
that's the
right?
terrible spot, yeah.
So when we're working with them and they have very little money. So
They need a road village. Yeah, I know.
that's not my decision to make.
No, I know, but that's the only reason the roads here are in better shape is because of the road mill.
Oh, yeah,
But-
and you can tell. I mean, there's 3 townships that have better roads than everybody else. Arcadia's roads are in good shape now, and they will be because they have a road village. You guys are pretty much probably overall the best quality of roads. Filer's just got a lot of money. I mean,
Yeah,
they simply do. They just have a lot of money because of the business taxes that they are able to
Right.
collect. So they're putting in, at least $300,000 a year in roads. And so
okay. No, that's fine.
Manistee has money too, and they don't spend money.
So I would tell everyone here, so in case you're aware or not aware, the road millage you pay goes strictly to roads. It doesn't go, it goes in the township account, if you wanna call it. It's kept track of separately, and all that money is spent on roads. It's not used for anything else. So,
And our overhead is about as low as you're gonna
Yeah.
find. Our overhead is very, very low. We have an external engineer. We don't try to pay a full-time engineer. We just keep our overhead low at the road commission, and it ends up being a cost-effective way to do roads.
go.
Our costs, and just so anyone is interested, I came from Grand Traverse County before this. Grand Traverse County, their overhead's about 17%. And we're at like 8.5% here. So half. And we're getting contractors that come in here and do road projects for about 30% less than doing work in Grand Traverse County. Mainly because the citizens in Grand Traverse County are high maintenance people. Just to say the least. I mean, so
Any,
Does the Manistee County Road Commission have jurisdiction over the stretch of 22 through the village?
no, we have no control over M22 at all. That's 100% MDOT. We do a lot of work on it for MDOT, but anything we would have to do, they have to give us kind of the okay unless it's routine maintenance like sweeping or tree trimming or mowing or pothole patching.
So I would have to contact MDOT to have
Yes.
them look at a speed limit sign that is no longer really visible from the road.
Yes.
Thank you.
And if they want us to trim it, we can trim it, but we don't normally get into that. Normally they have a sign crew that takes care of everything for visibility as well as installation and replacement of signs.
Very good, thank you.
Certainly.
yeah, Dan.
What's the scope of the current work on Crescent Beach Road?
You're talking right out here on the lake.
Yeah, they
Lake
just
View?
started to cut that driveway.
Lake,
Lake Shore. Okay, sorry, there's a lot of lake names. They just got started. They're anticipating to be done in 2 weeks and then do restoration for 2 days after that. So they would be done, they're anticipating to be done probably, like towards the end of September with a brand new road. And then
Is it getting wider or what's?
no, it's just, they're gonna add enough asphalt to it that they've gotta go back out into driveways. And if it's a concrete drive, they'll replace it in concrete. If it's an asphalt drive, they'll replace it in asphalt. If it's a gravel drive, they'll replace it in gravel. So they have that all included in the process, and they're just gonna come through and they're gonna take care of it. Elmer's is the contractor. They're one of the better contractors out there. I mean, if you catch them, if there's a problem, flag them down, they'll help you out.
And that's a county or a state project?
That's a county project.
County project.
From M22 to where?
It's going around all the way down to, there's a park and I don't remember the name of the park.
Red Park?
No, it's,
Oh.
is it Magoon? Is that? No.
Orchard Beach.
You're on the
And,
wrong- You're on the wrong side of the lake.
it's somewhere down, and I don't know that, but I know there's a park entrance that we're going up to.
Since I haven't been over there, Dan, where does it start? Right off of 22?
Pretty much.
I'm not sure.
We're,
I talked to one of the workers and they said they were adding shoulders.
yeah, they're doing some repairs to shoulders and widening it slightly for shoulders, but not for pave.
Okay.
So it's.
There's 22.
So it's coming through, it's coming down. Where am I at?
There's over it like.
So,
There's 22 comes around,
Right.
comes down to Crescent Beach.
right, and then
It goes
comes
down
around,
all the way.
there's some. Oh,
Is it going all the way to Bar Lake? That
it's
little
going to,
It's out of Onekama Township.
Oh, yeah,
Way down there, yeah.
it's somewhere right in this area.
Okay.
part? So it's the whole length of Crescent Beach Drive they're doing?
Yeah, all the way down
Oh,
to,
okay.
all the way down to
Crescent
the,
Beach and then Lake Shore.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
And there's, at the end of it is, there's 2 private roads that come off of it somewhere near the end,
Okay.
like, which I believe is right here.
So Brad, is that just an overlay or
That's a
Two-inch?
structural overlay.
structural overlay? Then, okay, but they're not gonna chip seal that. That would be something.
No, we'll chip seal that
3 years.
in probably 2 to 3 years.
Okay, very good.
When
Okay,
we do chip seal in this township, we'll pick that up.
okay. Anyone on the board questions? No. Brad, thank you very much. It's been very informative. And we'll take care of these, okay? I appreciate you bringing that and the explanation for what happened there, because it did catch us off guard.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that.
No, that was not you.
That was in the works long before I got here.
That wasn't you. Yeah, we know that.
So, but yeah, and if you guys have any, and if any citizens, if you guys wanna call, talk to us about anything, this is not the old road commission. We're trying to help people. Please call me.
If you want Brad's cell number, just call me and make sure it's like 2 a.m. if you have an issue and.
Doesn't matter. My phone never gets shut off. It hasn't since 92.
I know, I'm in the same boat. Thank you very much.
All right, thank
Thanks.
you.
So instead of waiting till roads, so I have a bill here. One of it is for the part out at Seymour, Lake Park, Fairway, Midway, and Bayview. The resurfacing thing, which is $198,836.46. And it has not been paid, but they refinalized the bill, and I think this is less than before, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, okay, so it came in for less money. I would need a motion by somebody to pay that.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, motion by Ed, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. Genesee County Road Commission for $198,836.46. Is there any discussion?
Just a question.
Sure.
Clarification. This is the one that we were going to discuss before, and that's,
And that's why Ed asked for his explanation today of what happened. Originally, this was just gonna be a chip seal
this was more money.
before it came down.
Okay, so they just,
They didn't have a final bill. The other one was an estimate.
got it.
So this is the final bill. Anything else? You have to do roll call? Rob?
Yeah.
Okay, Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
David, yes. I declare that, whatever, paid. The next one is the bill for Millark Road, which we finally got done, which is the 0.9677 miles south of 8 Mile. That they didn't do with Fair Lakes, 5 years ago. Anyways, our share on that, surprisingly enough, is way lower, $64,572.04. I think that's a bargain. I almost think that's less than it was originally. It is, isn't it? They covered more of it. I think that.
It was 88 apiece.
That's right. They covered more of it this time. Anyways, I would need a motion on that also.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Bob. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Cindy. The amount $64,572.04 for job Millark Road resurfacing. Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
David, yes, fast. Okay, now we can move on. BSNA payments.
So I had a contract, I talked about it last month in the agenda packet. We have not traditionally taken online payments here at the township. And we were gonna go with a different vendor called Point and Pay, and we had talked about that, but since we upgraded to the newer software, there's now a more integrated payment service it works better with the software. And so I'd like to implement that rather than the Point and Pay, and there's no cost to the township. The customers absorb that because we want to be absorbing the credit card fees. People will be able to pay their tax bills online. It's the primary purpose for this.
And you get a lot of people requesting that.
We
correct?
do. I mean, we automatically debit their accounts for a lot of customers, but there's some people that want to put it on a card. I mean, there is a fee with that. We could also take, credit card payments at the counter then with it. So
Okay.
if somebody wants to come in and pay with a credit card, we'd be able to take that. So I think it'll be a nice, upgrade for the residents.
You need approval from the board?
I'd like a motion for me to be able to sign the agreement and then, we can get. it
Okay,
signed.
you making that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second by Bob. Any discussion? No, I think that's a great idea. So,
Long overdue.
yeah, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That's carried. Portage Lake Bible Camp Road Vacation Plan has Go speak, Mark. So Tom hasn't, just as a preference, Tom hasn't gotten back to us on that. He hasn't even, he told me today he has slacked on it. Be blunt about it. I mean, I can't change what he told me. I don't think anyone on the board here is prepared to do anything about it today. Does that make sense? And not to you maybe, but
Well, I've slacked on it, doesn't make a lot of sense. No.
well, he told me he's been busy, but we've had, I know we're not his only client and we've had just a ton of stuff. So, but why don't we talk about, because something came up the other day when someone asked me, if you pull their property up, Ed, we can talk about.
In the packet.
Yeah, no, I know, but he's gonna pull the map up when I ask. Questions.
Trustees there, yeah.
Probably easy.
Can I ask Mark a quick question?
Sure, go ahead.
Marcus, I remember from the last meeting, when we asked you, and, I apologize too, that it hasn't been looked at by our legal counsel, but as I remember, there was no real time frame issue other than just being able to get it finished.
Well, no, I didn't, that's not exactly true. There's two reasons for that. One, we've had to stop the progress right now. So this is something that we started, in, I think it was March. We first came and found that we had to have that paper plat in 1909 vacated. So we've been working at that, trying to figure out if this in fact had been vacated for those months. And then finally, we were told that we need to come to you to do that process. And so we have been telling our donors and constituents that we would start that process essentially a week ago. And we only have about a 9-month window before we need to be back in that building because it's a tear down and then rebuild.
Okay.
So we can serve, our folks. And so that's the problem. That's part of the problem is the window. So we've had to say no once so far. The other thing, the other part of the problem is we have a bid that came at the end of February with 2024 prices. And with a building as big as, or as expensive as this is, the buildings just are expensive now. Particularly because you have a lot of kitchen equipment in it. We want to pay for those items in 2024, so that we don't have to add 10% or whatever it is in 2025. And this is only the first part of the process of getting this whole plat vacated so we can get a land use permit, so that we can get a building permit, special use permit. And so the second part of that process then is to vacate the rest of the plat. And we know that that's not gonna be a one and done either. That's gonna take some time. So that's why I was really hoping for, that's why when you asked me to have Richard talk to Tom, we had within 6 days, we had a resolution in your inbox. And so, to hear I've slacked on that, it's like, oh, that's.
Well, I can only address part of that, but just, again, we'll go back to years ago. This has been brewing for years, right? This happened, I knew about this, well, I'm telling you, I knew about it when I told the past director 10 years ago, you need to do something about vacating the roads in there. And nobody did anything about it, right? So I understand that.
When you say brewing, we've been getting, land use permits for 70.
I get it, and they went across that. So here's what's come up, which maybe you can answer or not. It has the public access that you say fishermen use occasionally in the winter, maybe, or have, but it is a public access platted.
I will say this, so we have pictures from the first Camp Delight. It has buildings on those roads, particularly the one that goes off to the left there.
Right.
The buildings on those roads starting in 1912. So the building those have to be started in some 1910, 1911. So in essence, for those however 100+ years, they've been ignoring and not recognizing that road at all. And since the time we've been there, there's been no one that has used that as a public access. or even an ingress.
Which one, this one here or this one
Yeah.
here, or neither one of them? Just so the.
Yeah, so this one does not go to the lake right here.
This one does not.
No. Eagle Street goes
That
to
one,
the
that's
lake
the one that
right
goes to
here.
the lake.
And one of the pictures, I'll just show you guys. So these are the pictures of where that road ends. So the yellow is, one's from the
Right.
lake. I can't tell. One's from the roof, one's from the lake. And so this is where that is. It goes through.
Right here.
Yeah, it goes through the middle of our dining hall and it ends in a 3-foot seawall or 3 or 4 foot seawall that has been there since 1970. And before that, I'm told that it was never used there either. So
It's still, I have a hard time, I've been here so long, we have never vacated, just so you know, as far as I know, and that was the stand, the board took the position, we would never vacate a public access to the water's edge.
and I
mean,
understand.
Whether or not somebody used it or not,
Sure.
that's just been what the past boards have always done. I'm just putting that out there. It's just never. I don't think we vacated. We lost that court case. Is that what
They were vacated.
But I mean, it's
Anyways.
a little bit different scenario in the sense of, one, it's never been used as a egress ingress at all, ever. I mean, since its inception, even back, when you have buildings on that road back in 1912. And so the other part of this is that it couldn't be used as a ingress, egress when you have minors who are present that we're housing overnight. And that's the part so.
Is that
Where have
because
we
of the
let up?
camp? That's because of a camp or state of Michigan?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
So
Laura.
that's what I'm not arguing that. I understand that point.
Yeah.
What about locating it on the property south of that the
So-
camp owns?
So here's here's two issues with that. One, these cabins right here, 3, 4, and 5. Yeah, these 3 right here are the oldest cabins that we have at camp. They've been built right after we bought the camp in 46 and 51 or so. They're the oldest cabins they have. It's in the strategic plan or the long range plan to relocate that with a lodge like this, tear those down. We have this dining hall going in here. It's in our long range plans to put another one of those lodges right here. This is my house here, the director's house. And to put that there, that's the first thing. That's just in our long range plan. Secondly, when you talk about having this license through Lara, we are required to provide for them just an explanation of how we will deal with visitors on site when minors are present. And we have a whole detailed process by which we vet people who come and go from our property. If you put some sort of public access through our property.
I'm talking about on this property where the house is, not where the camp is.
Right here?
Yeah,
Yeah, so this is our house. The property line between our house and our neighbors is literally from our garage to wherever the property line
what
is.
about the other side,
Which side?
right where Ed is pointing?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. This is where we.
Not right there, but closer to the house, I don't know, somewhere in there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Here's the other problem with that is we still have to, that's still a liability for us when we have kids on property. Because that'd be like putting a public access next to a playground, right? So during the day, you have an elementary school where you're asking, where kids are coming, you're asking visitors to check in and check out. And, but ours are there constantly, 24 hours a day. And that's a liability that I don't want to have. It's also a manpower thing that we would have to police to make sure that we don't have people coming and going. I'm thinking about people coming in, from the water side. If they're just pulling up with a canoe and a cooler and that kind of thing. And we have kids that are running all over the property, playing capture the flag or doing big games or whatever it is. And those are things that I've been tasked with, not only by my board, but by Lara, to just make sure that we don't create more liability. And so that's that. Plus, this isn't something that, I understand the argument about there's not that many There's one other, public access on that side. But this isn't something that has ever been accessible. And in fact, it's been ignored and not even recognized since its inception.
Well, I think because it was inaccessible, that's probably a true statement, absolutely.
Yeah.
People would think that that wouldn't have been a public access, there's a building right on it. And, yeah, I agree with that part, okay. It's up to the board, I'm just putting it out there, that's what was brought up to me, so.
So do we have any idea when legal counsel will?
Yeah, before next, he told me to get on it, so.
Well, I talked to Mark the other day and, the day 6, we got the resolution, day 7, I sent it to the attorney, so.
Yeah.
I think if Tom gets back to us, I would be willing to schedule a special meeting if it helps out the camp to discuss this further, but I need to know.
Oh, sure.
Not only do I need Tom to look at the agreement and see if there's any changes, but I have several questions I'd like to pose to Tom, as well, once he's finished his review.
Sure.
But I'm okay with scheduling a
And I
special
would
meeting.
completely expect that you would talk to your legal counsel before ever, voting to vacate. And I totally, that makes complete sense. But if there's anything I can do to
I
help
think
that
you did,
process along.
this was good today, right? I think, yeah, it was very informative, so.
Okay. Well, if
That's
there's anything
it.
else, let me know.
Well, as soon as I know and Tom looks at it, we'll schedule before the end of the month. That's all. Oh, how's that?
That would be great.
Okay,
That's great. Hey, thank you.
very good. Thanks, Mark. Storage shed, subcommittee. I've got one of the Amish guys, give me a bid to build a shed instead of just that pre-assembled one that has steel. I just didn't like that personally. If you look at the picture of the front of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I would just like something that is the right size.
It
that
looks a little,
will allow us to grow, because there are gonna be more storage needs over time. That isn't gonna break the bank, and that we, get a formal quote from. So if a stick-built thing is better than but the only reason I added subcommittee on there is I don't know if if there needs to be a group or.
I don't think so. I think Vic gave me, what do we think? It had to be at least 20,
20 feet long.
at least 20 by,
Maybe
12.
But that's like a minimum, because that's,
Right.
right.
It can be bigger.
We should be thinking of temporary storage shed, and in the long, down the road, 5 years, you should be thinking pole barns.
Yeah, I get
A
it.
shed, not a shed,
A pole barn, a building, building somewhere
Right now.
But
You need something.
temporary, so.
Yeah.
We can just go the cheap route. I mean, that's not cheap though. That was, what is that, 10 grand?
Well, that's my point. I mean, at some point, it doesn't make sense to do a temporary thing. We can find a place to store those things this winter, even if we have to rent someplace temporarily in order to do that right. I don't wanna waste money if we're gonna build a pole barn in 3 years. So I don't know what the right answer is. I think.
I'll have 2 bids before the end of the month and we'll, if we have to special meeting for Mark, why don't we just put that on that? We can talk, because we need something before the
For
winter.
what though?
Well, I'll get you 2 bids for a temporary building. If you think it's too high, then we'll have to find a place to store this stuff. It can't be outside, can it?
Not really.
I mean, at a minimum, we could bring it here and just stack it back and put a tarp over it.
This is just the Moby mats. We got Moby mats
Oh,
out.
it's the plastic.
I'm sorry. Rigid walk, I call Moby mats.
Right.
Yeah. It's the rigid walkway from Langham Park. Has to go somewhere. Can't be.
And the Moby mats need to be stored here too. They shouldn't,
Well, yes, I mean, they are currently stored in the restroom.
yeah, they shouldn't be stored.
So we need.
Not in the restroom, but same building.
Right.
Yeah.
So help my memory with what John Wemlinger brought up. That the village was willing to offer, and we originally said no because of this.
It's a little small area. It's not.
But so it's not enough to temporarily deal with.
If I recall, that was a 10 by 10.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
and,
I couldn't remember the size.
The current stuff we have out there, we could get in that 10 by 10. So that could be the solution for this winter.
Just for this one.
But they would have to build it and they were gonna add a door and all of that stuff. So, and didn't Jean find a home for her stuff or not? Somebody was storing stuff in
Dave
the
is
garage. Dave was
storing-
storing.
I'm not storing no more.
So, yeah.
Michelle's.
Michelle's
Michelle.
Yeah.
stuff, plus a bunch of poles for public accesses.
At this point, it's volleyball equipment and the rigid walkway. and we could probably fit it in a 10 by 10.
Can we? Okay.
As long
They'd
as
have to
there's a
be,
need for
I don't
overlay.
wanna put them through the hoops of building.
No, Bill, not for 1 year. That'd be stupid.
I'm sure we can find a spot to store volleyball equipment in this building somewhere, but then
Okay.
if this doesn't get built, we'll bring the rigid ones and just stack them in back.
Right, I'm not requesting a building
Yeah.
be built, just
Right.
we have to store the stuff somewhere.
Okay. Committee emails and archives. We're back to committee emails.
Okay,
The
so we
question came
never,
up.
we never reached a resolution on that.
No.
So, the question is, one, should all committee members of the township have a committee email, first of all, or should it just be the chair? And then, of course, the employees and the elected officials have emails as well. And depending on that, I need to get the archiving quote updated so we can then do the cloud archiving where then it's easier for FOIA and that sort of thing. I think there's cost to having every member have
Have
an
an email.
email. That actually, depending on what kind of licensing you get, can be fairly affordable, but then there's also an incremental cost for each license that you need for doing the archiving. So I don't know what the right answer is. I think you're gonna, and then the discussion was not all the members on these committees are gonna wanna be bothered to use those emails. You know, you can tell them you need to use them. But you know, it's up to them to be able to use them and you know, who's gonna monitor that. Then there was the conversation about, okay, should all the correspondence on the committees go through the chair? That way, if the chair has an email that is archived, then you get everything. And that could work. But again, they have to do that, right?
Yes.
So I don't know what the right answer is, but I would like, you know, at some point, I just need to get it for the ones we have so we can start doing that. But it would be nice to get it all tied up and make a decision in that before we.
I agree, because I don't know if this is what triggered you putting it on. I wrote Ed asking about, you know, do we have that ability? Because one, I'm getting asked by people about, they'd rather not use their personal email for committee work. And then the other thing is that I'm hearing often is that people don't know how to contact people.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing on the site. And so it's like, how can we come up with some kind of resolution that we can communicate so that people know
Yeah.
what our position is?
I personally think everybody that's on an appointed committee should have one. And we should pay for that and we should pay for the archiving. And if somebody leaves, it's easy enough to just unassign that license and assign them to a new person. I mean, there's a management thing on that, but it's not that hard to do.
Okay.
And the other thing that's nice about that is it's all in the Microsoft environment, so you can set up internal mailing lists. So you could have a Harbor Commission mailing list that would go to all the Harbor Commission members and the chair internally. So there's things you can do that are nice, but there's a cost to it, and we just need to make a decision, and then I can get the quote updated.
Okay.
Do you want me to bring that back to
Yes.
the next meeting and?
I think we beat it to death.
Do you need to bring it back? Can we get him going?
No, you can tell them if you want them to do it. Do we want to know what it costs?
I don't have the cost right now, but I have to get them to refresh the quote, but it's probably under the 2,000, so.
Okay.
We just do it.
You want to just do it? Yes, okay,
Okay, so I'll get that.
okay,
Do we need a motion for that?
yeah, probably.
So I would move that we proceed with cost up to $2,000 to
Right,
make whatever changes we need to with Microsoft so that we have the ability to give email addresses through the township to all participating committee members.
I modified it. I modified.
he wants to shorten it.
Well, Microsoft is one part of it. Proofpoint is the archiving software.
Oh,
We need to
yeah,
get it.
well, I didn't know that part.
Why don't we do those separate in case Proofpoints? Anyway, that needs to be done too, so.
You want two separate
I'm trying to
motions?
say, get it done.
We'll make it, we'll move it ahead.
Okay, Bob, you second that?
I did.
I figured you would. All those in favor say, discussion, any? None? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed, carried, none. I didn't mean to vote opposed, I'm sorry.
So you'll make updating the website so much.
Yes. Okay, clerk resignation letter. So I have a letter from Amber, which probably everyone's already seen anyways, I heard. So I'll read it. It says dated September 1st, 2024. Onekama Township Board, I'd like to inform you I'm resigning from my position as Onekama Township Clerk effective September 15th, 2024. I appreciate my time on the board, but due to an ongoing personal health issues, I will not be able to continue. I'm hoping this is something to come back to in the future, but right now is not the right time. I hope you all understand. I hope that whoever takes the position will consider keeping Mandy as their deputy. She does a great job and will be able to help if they need to be shown the ropes. She has completed several trainings to be able to keep things moving smoothly. Thank you, Amber Settlemeyer. So I would need a motion by someone,
Motion, we accept the
resignation.
resignation.
Is there a second?
I'll support that.
Ed, thank you very much. Any discussion? None being heard. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None. That is carried. Okay, so effective now the 15th, we don't have a clerk. After the 15th, we won't have a deputy because the deputy goes with the clerk. And the deputy cannot be the clerk. She doesn't live in, she could not even be considered for that position because I've been asked that. She doesn't live in Onekama Township. So that rules her out, just so everybody is, in case you're all wondering that. So we have 45 days to fill a vacancy. The problem with that is if I have no clerk right now, then I have no deputy and there's no one to do the work.
Well, and we've got the elections.
And we have the election coming up and you have, so we need a clerk. So the long and the short of it is, I asked Bob if he would consider being the clerk. So,
Reluctantly, I owe that to the township.
So, yeah.
so it would be to fill the remainder of Amber's term, which is till the election. Amber is on the election. She's the only one running for the office. She will be elected. She's the only one on the ballot. Someone could run as a write-in. From now, you have time still to enter.
Yes,
That's Shelley, correct?
yes. You also have Toria here as well.
All right, we have three applicants, extra, no. Nola,
Noah,
Okay.
Jennifer and Toria.
all right, all three applicants from before.
They could all, yeah. Anybody can be a write-in.
Anybody can be a write-in. So that's just what I put forward, and the reason my thinking was, if Amber wins, which she will, she could still come back to the office in November. But in the meantime, we have 45 days to appoint somebody. I don't think the board can wait 45 days because we'll get behind in all our bills and everything else. We need, and that's my solution. That's all I'm saying. So it seems unfair to put somebody else in charge and they take a chance at putting their heart into this and start taking all this stuff. And then 2 months from now, they're out. Bob's term expires in November. He's done. It gets us a stopgap. So,
But leave it up to them.
cool.
So that's fine.
Or you could pick one of those people. Yes, you could interview the three that are left and pick one of those. But if you're gonna do that, someone better get on that right away. Just saying.
And it's also important that if whoever we choose,
Has to, I say has to, they don't have to because it's their choice, maintain the deputy Mandy because she knows what's going on here now.
they just be longer. If they,
Right.
there's nobody that's trained to be a clerk.
So where I'm at a disadvantage is when the clerk position was chosen before, I was not on the board, so I didn't see any of the applicants
Okay.
or know anything.
Oh, that's right. You were not on the board at
No,
that
I
time.
wasn't.
That's correct. Okay.
And I don't remember resumes being published. Maybe they were. I just don't remember.
I think they're on the website. They're on the website. I think they should have
I
been.
don't remember. But
No, they weren't.
We didn't put the resumes?
I don't remember seeing it,
Informational, no,
because I didn't even know who would.
they were in the packet.
A packet.
Yeah.
And the packet was published.
Oh,
Anyway.
Yes, it was. Yeah,
I don't think so.
I'm not gonna look. It doesn't matter. Okay, I understand.
I don't
I think
think
I was
that,
attending meetings.
Yeah,
I don't
no.
remember ever seeing them.
Would have been public
But
information.
the resume should have been put in Laserfish.
Well, anyway.
Anyways,
I haven't seen them.
right, correct.
That's somebody that.
Well, no, I know that. Well, we're here, we just got this letter.
No, I know.
Okay, so if anyone says it's dated September first, and I didn't get this. I got this on Monday of this week. Monday?
I
That's
think
right.
you got it.
Well, I got the letter Friday, but it wasn't signed. So Monday. So Monday, that's the time frame I'm dealing with. That was 2 days ago or whatever. So that's how long I've had this letter. So couldn't really schedule anything, didn't know what to do. That's why we're here at this meeting talking about it, so. I'll leave it up to you guys, up to you.
So,
Well,
yeah,
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Cindy.
no, go ahead.
Go ahead.
You saw the applicants, I did.
I don't even want to go down the applicants. I have some rhetorical questions. So Amber's resigned. We've accepted her resignation.
Yep.
We have an election to run. Mandy's only been the deputy for 4 or 5 months, so we're gonna have to get help running the election. Whether that's from the county clerk or another township clerk or whatever it might be, because I don't think Mandy feels comfortable.
I can address a little bit of that. Another township clerk from Maple Grove. Shelley reached out to all of them and she responded back, and I called her yesterday and she'd be willing to come over and help. Would be Beldo.
So that solves the immediate election issue potentially, okay. So regardless of who we appoint as an interim, which we have to do, so we can keep Mandy and have election staff and all that. Amber's gonna be on the election again. I don't think a write-in candidacy is going to defeat Amber, so if we're going to the assumption that Amber gets elected, she doesn't have to resign. I can't fathom if I'm resigning 45 days before the election, that I would get sworn into office for election that I just won, but we don't know that because she hasn't said that. And in fact, she said, well, maybe I will take the office. So we don't know what Amber's intending to do, assuming again, she wins the election. And I think that's a real problem for us trying to appoint somebody for a really small period of time, knowing that they may end up not, because if Amber wins the election, she either has to not take the oath of office or she'll take it and resign, and then we'll have to appoint the clerk all over again. So it's really cumbersome the way it is, but that's the cards we're playing right now.
She has stated to me that she will not take the oath.
Okay, so she
She
hasn't,
may change her mind.
well, that's always a possibility.
Exactly, but she
Right.
has stated to me
Okay.
that. Would you say, Shelley? That she will not take the oath. Oh, she will not take the oath, okay.
I don't even want to guess at that, right? So I'm not in any position to guess, so
Very well change her mind.
that's not what
I would not.
that's not today's decision to me, but.
Well,
The only
so-
thing I can say in the workload that the clerk does is pretty darn heavy.
All right,
Well, especially with the election right now. I mean,
The election is gonna take a whole bunch.
so I have been trying to think of solutions. And one of them, it sounds like you took care of, which was reaching out to people, because the only thing I could think of is seeing if we could find somebody to help in that regard also.
it's Fran, right? Her name, Frances,
Yes.
Fran. She was very nice on the phone and very accommodating, and I said, what do you want an hour? Well, I don't know. I said, well, I have to have some figure, so we'll get in. She said, we can discuss all that. So, but she sounded like she could see, because she's up for election in her township. She can't be in working the election that day, right? So she can be over here working this election because she's not on the ballot here. She can be hands-on. That's the way that works. If the clerk here was on the ballot, she'd have to be in the back office when the election goes on. It can only answer questions, but it's not supposed to be out here working the election at all. Am I correct? Okay. That's why she could be over here working this election because she's not on, she'd be hands-on. So I thought that was a good solution. Shelley was the one that reached out to her when I called her, and I asked her if the county could do it actually, because I thought maybe the county could do it,
We can.
but they're short-staffed. She's short-handed. So that's how it morphed into reaching out to other clerks who'd be willing to do that, and she was very nice and accommodating, so.
So hearing that, I mean, that relieves me a lot. because I was very concerned about that issue. I mean, so it sounds like either potentially appointing Bob or going back to the applicants and to somewhat echo your thought, the problem I see with going to the applicants right now is it potentially could be for a very short period of time. We don't know that it's not. But I think the other issue for me that when I was trying to think this through is hiring a new applicant is not familiar with all the other things in the office. I mean, there's a learning curve, and I mean, we don't have time for the learning curve.
No, we
I
got
mean,
2
granted,
months.
I mean, potentially, if they appointed Andy or whatever, you'd have some help there, but that is where your proposed solution could make sense because Bob knows the township.
Well, Bob knows township issues. He's very organized. He's already, never mind. He would be fine.
So if we went down that route, then what I would like to see happen, and again, this is assuming Amber gets elected and assuming that she doesn't take the oath, is at that point, we would re-advertise for an open clerk position, get applicants. Taria, you'd be welcome to apply again, as with the other applicants, and then I want to do a public interview with these candidates.
I agree.
Which we didn't do last time because we had a deputy in place we thought would be the logical choice to step in. It turned out that didn't work out. So now we don't have an incumbent, kind of, so to speak. So I think re-advertise it and do a public interview and appoint somebody, before the end of the calendar year. And if Bob would stay on for, a little bit past the election.
20th,
Yeah.
20th, he's done.
Well, but if,
They
okay.
have to be reappointed again.
Well, we have 45 days though, so we could, well, we're gonna be in a similar situation right after the election, but we could,
No, Bob's done.
Yeah.
You'd have to appoint another clerk.
that's what I'm saying. So
You
we
could
might have
reappoint
to-
Bob?
We might have to reappoint him. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We might have to reappoint him for a week or so. Again, so we can
Oh,
keep.
wait a minute, that's right, no, because you would be appointing them until the end of.
Correct.
Okay, you still need a deputy.
We know that. He's,
Right.
the time frame has to work out better.
Yeah, so what would happen is if Amber gets elected and she resigns or doesn't take the oath, we now have another clerk vacancy because we're only appointing a Bob to the unexpired term. So we could get our ducks in a row if that happens and maybe, I think we have to wait until Amber doesn't take the oath to apply for a new clerk, but that's gonna be a couple week period before we get applications into interviews. So we might consider appointing Bob or somebody.
And
As
you
a-
maybe just get a thing from Amber saying, hey, I'm not gonna take the oath, and then you can move
Well,
forward.
that would be cleaner if she would put that in writing, but anyway, I think that to me makes the most sense, but.
I don't know if Amber would be willing to or whatever, but I remember when a similar situation happened at the city of Manistee on city council.
And you got elected.
Mayor and I got elected. I remember legal counsel there having me come to a meeting and re-resign. I mean, it wasn't waiting till I didn't take, it was
Well, here, it's different for the township, because I called them MTA, and you have to take the oath. If you don't take the oath, you're out. That's it. You have till the 20th to take it. If you don't do it,
You officially take the office on the 21st, I believe it is.
20th, oh, yeah.
And she just, what I was told was she just wouldn't take the oath and because then she just.
and then from that point, you have 45 days to appoint, which
It was-
doesn't help us. Yeah.
Get off the ballot and she couldn't, so that was the other option.
Oh, she couldn't get off the ballot at the time, okay.
No.
But I do agree with having a very, very thorough.
Yeah.
Open process moving forward, so that,
Last time, I think it came down to the fact that she knew how to run the elections and everyone else was new at it, and you couldn't have got them all trained fast enough. And then, if you remember, we asked, would you stay on as the deputy for somebody else? And she said, no, she wouldn't. So then you would have put a new clerk in the spot with absolutely no help,
Right.
and it would have been a disaster. And I think that's why that process went, to me, that's why the process went that way, so. So what do you want to do? Tick, 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 tick.
So like I said, I would be willing to stay on whatever you decide,
I don't, no,
or as long as
because,
it takes.
you know,
Because I know you're gonna advertise, and there's gonna be a clerk, a regular clerk here, and I can go down the road.
you are
And how long do you have to
He-
appoint a trustee?
45
The
days.
dominoes keep falling.
It's too bad, well,
So the other part of that is if you appoint Bob, so we're short one trustee, you have 45 days to appoint a trustee.
which is gonna be just shy.
We have to do it next month. You'd have, I would say,
Or
say,
at the special meeting, depending on what. we
or a
do.
special meeting, or you could wait till the October meeting and then appoint, because you're never gonna make it to the election.
Right.
So you have to
Right,
appoint
that's what I'm
somebody.
saying, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate, because as I was thinking it through, I'm like, no, we're probably about 6 days short
All right,
of having that happen.
so you could be at a special meeting and appoint somebody, if you appoint Bob.
If I stay on a little
So the
bit,
motion would be, if someone make this motion, the motion would be to appoint Bob to finish the clerk's
Well,
term,
well, you would appoint him to clerk, I think.
to finish the existing term.
Well, that's all you can appoint him,
That's it. That's what the motion
so
would
it's
be.
almost redundant.
He doesn't have to resign his position according to MTA. If you appoint him to that, his seat becomes open as a trustee. No, as soon as you appoint him. As soon as you appoint, well, I'm sorry. Yeah.
You don't
six.
have the clerk resign until the.
Right.
You're right. No. As soon as you appoint Bob and you accept that he's gonna take it on the 16th, his position becomes open as a trustee.
Correct.
Without him turning in a piece of paper, even though he would do that. So there's your options, or you can appoint somebody else.
I would move to appoint Bob Blackmore to the clerk position for the unexpired term. Or until the election or whatever.
No, that's what you said is the expired, it'll be the I gotta say that right, unexpired term?
Remain.
Remaining.
Effective September 16th for the remaining term.
Oh,
There you go,
yes.
effective
Sorry.
September 16th, okay. Second,
I'll support that motion.
yeah, Bob probably shouldn't do his own, he can, but
And again, I wanna.
discussion, go ahead, yeah, go ahead.
For all the reasons we just talked about, I mean, this is a very difficult position for everybody involved in the township and the voters, because we want to have a good
Absolutely.
election and stuff. But I do think once all the dust settles, Amber doesn't take the oath, we'll advertise, we'll take resumes. And I think we should, because again, there's not an incumbent who had 3 or 4 years of experience. Do public interviews, and then we can decide on who we want to appoint as clerk. And
I
to me,
agree.
that makes the most sense.
I agree.
Okay, if we have to have a roll call vote or not. Cindy, Bob? You have to vote. You can't absolve it. Okay, Ed
Yes.
and David, yes. So there you go. Okay, Mr. Clerk, we'll see you on Tuesday, Monday. What is that? Monday? Is that Monday?
So we,
Just got a raise?
so. So.
Okay, go ahead. So now we have a vacancy. We will have a vacancy.
Worried about that.
Okay.
We're still talking about the clerk. So we have a potential solution for assistance during the election,
Correct.
to help Mandy, whoever.
Both of them.
But then I heard a comment about compensation. Is that something we need to talk about today?
For who?
The person from the.
Yeah, I don't know what, she hasn't told me what she'd like to get in. I don't know, do we have a figure that we would pay somebody? Is that a negotiable figure? We've never done this.
I think we can
before.
find out, and if it's, yeah, I think we'll be okay with that in terms of, because they can just fit in the clerk budget probably for hours.
I would, hourly wise, it's in their salary schedule, I think you could use that.
Yeah.
I don't think we have a clerk's.
But
Hourly.
Dave, I think what we should do is, Fran, is that who it is?
Yeah.
Is just find out what she wants or what she would.
I
charge, and then-
I did that yesterday,
What did you
asked
say?
her. She didn't know,
Okay,
so I'll figure it out.
we can figure that out.
I'll figure it out. She sounds like,
Do a survey of what around the county,
okay,
or the county clerks do around the state.
okay, we can do that.
So.
If you
she
don't
would
mind
only-
doing it, that'd be great.
So she would only be here for the election helping?
No, she come in ahead of time, she'd help.
With absentee ballots or,
She sounds pretty open to that.
so, So I guess what my question is, which maybe I didn't communicate it correctly or clearly, do we need today to have a motion for what she will be paid?
I don't
Okay,
think-
now time out. She can't double dip per se.
We're just hiring her as an employee.
Actually, you could do it as a contract.
Yeah,
Contract, okay.
you would have to, yes.
So,
She's not our clerk. She's just an employee.
so how does this sound? I'd make a motion that we authorize the supervisor to negotiate a contract with
It's Fran Bilbo.
Fran Beldo to assist the township with the election in a not to exceed amount of $2,000. And bring that back for board approval at the next meeting.
That's fine. Is that the motion you're making?
I'll second that.
Okay. Discussion? None? Cindy?
She would be hired as an election official person, not a clerk.
Not a clerk. She's not a clerk. She's not our clerk.
Yes.
Yes, Bob?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
David, yes. Okay. I'll talk to her tomorrow. And I just gave her today to think about it because she didn't, I put her on the spot.
And to answer your question, Cindy, I will be working directly with Bob and Mandy on all of the election, pre-election stuff as well.
We happen to know the county pretty well.
And Bob can be here working because Bob's not on the ballot. That's the other thing too. So yeah,
Well,
that works out.
At first I was like, hey, I'll help, and then I'm like,
You can't.
okay, that probably is not a real good solution.
No, you can't. Okay, I guess we'll talk about if you want to add appointment of a trustee to the end of the month special meeting or whatever, we can decide that after. It doesn't have to be decided right now. Oh, excuse me. Schedule work session to discuss staffing, statutory duties and other duties and compensation. We need to set that up.
And yeah, we need to do that before the next elected clerk or appointed clerk takes office, because once. Well, any of the elected officials, if those are adjusted too, but once that happens, you can't change that compensation. So the issue has become. Those salaries, when the salary resolution is adopted, doesn't specify statutory duties versus non-statutory duties. It was always kind of, here kind of what the clerk does, here what the treasurer does, and it includes both statutory and non-statutory duties. The clerk that just resigned had some real issues with some of these non-statutory duties and said, I'm not doing them. So we ended up having to appoint Dave as the FOIA coordinator, and there were some other things, and she was really pushing for this meeting. So I think prior to the final clerk, I'm gonna say, after the election being appointed, we need to make it very clear as to what they're being paid for statutory duties and what they're being paid for these non-statutory duties. And if they decide they don't want to do the non-statutory duties, then they don't get paid for that. And there's lots of townships that do that, and that's a recommended practice. So I think we need to talk through that. Cindy and I started doing that when we talked about this a couple months ago and have a pretty good start on that, but we need to flesh that out some more. But I do think, and I don't think that should be part of the special meeting that we're gonna have. I think it needs to be a work session and then brought back to probably the October
Meeting.
board meeting before,
Okay.
well,
Has to be.
yeah, probably.
Well, so am I correct, though, that what you're proposing is gonna deal with the larger picture too? Because if you remember, we started that, and I don't think, David, I don't think either one of you were at that meeting. I think it was Bob, myself, and Amber, when we were trying to talk about staffing in general. So, I mean, I'm gonna assume it's not just the clerk, it's the
No,
whole.
No, no, it's the whole-
it's staffing, statutory duties, other
Right,
duties and
you only focused
compensation.
on that, that's
Yeah.
why I'm.
Yeah, I think we just need to have a conversation about what that looks like, because I think you could make an argument, you know, if you did some restructuring here, that might look differently than if you didn't, if you continue doing it how we have been. So I think but the point I'm making is, if you set the compensation for an elected official and they're elected, you cannot reduce that compensation. And if that compensation was adopted just as a bulk amount, but it anticipated all these non-statutory duties, that elected official can say, I'm not doing those anymore. And you can't adjust that salary. So I just want to make sure that we are doing this in a best practice kind of way. And we address some of the issues that we've had in the past.
You wanna talk about a date or you wanna do this?
I think we should get it scheduled, so.
I can send, I don't know. I had done like a rough spreadsheet trying to sort those out, like so that everybody can visually see what we're talking
Time,
So we
dates?
probably should think about scheduling that special meeting too at the same time if we're looking at our calendars.
So
Well, how can we do the special meeting when we don't have the information?
we'll have it back from Tom,
We'll have it back from Tom when?
maybe by
Didn't know.
Friday.
Oh, I didn't know you knew when we.
Probably, I told him he had to do it right away, so he said probably Friday. Or Monday at the latest.
So you're gonna schedule an hour after the meeting so that.
Whatever you guys wanna do.
Why don't we,
Does make a difference.
why don't we schedule it after the meeting so everybody here doesn't have to wait for us
Okay.
to check our calendars.
Okay. Unfinished business, hail and boat insurance. Oh, did I miss somebody? Who?
Well, we got-
No,
You're right.
no, hail and boat. Rob, you might as well address the boat thing.
I think all the invoices are submitted, taken care of through the insurance company. But the claim is closed, the boat's in good operating condition, no problems. We've been running it once or twice a week, so.
I've got to verify that we received a check, because I don't think we've gotten paid yet. So,
From the,
insurance company.
yeah, no, they just sent the invoices to them
Okay.
a couple days ago.
Can you email me what the total is so I know what to expect for the check? If you have them, or who's sending it?
I
Okay, I want to make sure it matches what we're supposed to be getting, so.
Okay, and Bob, on the rest of the stuff, we've turned all the things in. We're still waiting for the estimate from Mr. Brown.
We had, initial, roof repair, that's been paid, that was 600 plus. That's been paid and insurance companies will reimburse that. Window in the fire department is in the process of being finished, that's got an invoice that went to the insurance company today.
Mr. Brown is gonna give us an estimate.
Redoing the roof is already going up to the hierarchy. They're gonna let us know if that bid was approved or not before we can continue. The mini splits have been approved for payment, so that down payment, that initial contract went out. The painting, we're supposed to replace the metal, the building, and in lieu of, we decided maybe it might be more economical to repaint it. So Dave's getting a bid from the local to repaint it, and that will go in, and then we should be pretty close to having the storm damage under control. Nothing, little things have been done. No money's come from the insurance company yet, but
No.
it's.
So I asked Jerry Brown to give us a bid. Two sides of it have to be fixed from the hail. And then the other two has to be just painted. We're gonna have to pay for it, because there's no sense only painting half the building.
Are there dents in the metal?
Yeah.
Okay, then are they not gonna pay to replace the steel?
You can replace the steel for around $100,000, and I.
No, the insurance company can replace the steel.
No, I don't think they're gonna go there.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
No.
They're not going to?
No,
They
because
don't
it's,
say that. They didn't
we
say
haven't pushed the
we're
issue.
going to.
you know,
I'm sure it hasn't affected the structural integrity of the steel, but when you paint it, is it gonna look like?
it's painted. No, it'll be fine
it'll be
painted.
fine? Okay.
I mean, but it'll still have those.
You still be able to see the dents in it.
And
And
why?
Shouldn't the insurance company pay to replace the steel?
We haven't had that final discussion yet. We're still arguing. How's that? It's like some of these other people in town. I don't know how some people got their whole thing paid for and others didn't. Right? I don't know if you know anybody that's happened to, but that
Well,
seems to be a,
kind of interesting, and our insurance company, Miss Lee,
municipal.
divorced themselves of the storm damage, jobbed it out to another one that's called Tokyo, something, da, 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 da. Different insurance company. They sent an adjuster down. He did the adjustment, got about a 12-page adjustment summary. all of a sudden, all this stuff, instead of going to our insurance company, has to go to Tokyo Adjuster. He reviews the bid specs that we gave him. He agrees to that, then he says to hierarchy, and hierarchy says, go ahead and issue. We'll pay this X amount of money.
Tokyo handles all of the claims for everything.
Tokyo does.
Handles all of the claims for
They
everything.
must job everything out to them, okay.
Cause I think the boat thing went to Tokyo too.
Yes, they let it go.
Well, she was a little pain too.
So I guess the question is, sounds like Dave and Bob, you guys have.
We
that.
need to argue with him about the steel, about replacing it and see
Well,
what they.
that's no argument, we all have to do is get a bid, they can't get a bid. Nobody
Okay,
wants-
if they're gonna pay for
Well,
it.
no, if they're gonna
we
pay
get a
for
bid,
getting the
then we
steel,
need to
I'll
get
give
the
it,
bid.
yeah, I didn't know that was the holdup, so. Okay,
Awful hard to get somebody to tear steel off and put it back on.
I know Amish will do that. Okay, we'll figure it out before the next meeting, okay.
Yeah, it's coming along.
Road end ordinance, we have to, long story short is we have to readopt the road end ordinance that we passed 2 months ago,
Fix that.
I think, 2 months ago. Wasn't published in the paper, had to be published within, X amount of days and was not published, so we have to just revisit. That's it, Onekama Township Road End Ordinance 2024, and I think it's gonna
Oh,
be
one,
001.
Is it?
that's what it was before.
It was, so now we already passed 00. I guess you just reaffirm that we're adopting it again, I guess with that number 2024-001. And Tom is gonna do, he has it, I talked to him today, he's going to do a synopsis of that to publish.
And
Because,
I'll have to change the date. on it.
yes, adopted today, oh, it was July,
That's when we did it before.
August, September, that'd be right, 2 months ago. Cause it was like $1,500 to put it in the paper last time. I was told. But it didn't get put in there anyway, I don't,
And so the clerk was supposed to have published it in the paper and she didn't get around to doing it, so we have to readopt it, but it hasn't changed, so I'd make a motion, we adopt, the Township Road End Ordinance 2024-001.
okay, is there a second?
Check.
Second by Bob, discussion? None, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oh, probably have to do a roll call. Cindy,
Yes.
Bob,
Yes.
David, yes, Ed?
Yes.
Okay, I declare that passed. Thank you, and what were you gonna say? This, Tom told me I could do the synopsis, yeah. No. Changes were made, so Bernard dock violation.
Changes were made,
Not from when it was voted on
Okay.
before.
No, I'm sorry.
but that was a brand new ordinance.
Yes, it supersedes all
Yes.
other ordinances.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, it supersedes, but it doesn't take effect, there's, yes, because you have to put the whole thing. It doesn't take effect for 30 days after it's published. But it has to be published within 20 days, I think. I don't even know the time frame. Whatever, 30, 15 days.
Do we have to wait for them to give us a synopsis?
No, he's working on that. He knows the time frame. So no, it'll be fine. I just talked to him at 3:30 on that issue. Bernard dock violation, as far as I know, the boat and the lift are still on the road end. So,
I mean, they were as of August 25th.
well, I know I've been there since then, so, we've sent a letter, Tom sent a letter, it's still there. He called the attorney and it's still there. I would like to get permission for him just to go to district court and just take it to court. Which is we write a civil infraction ticket and we just go back to court. Otherwise, you could run the risk that if we don't do anything and they just take it out, then next year this whole process starts over again. I don't think we want to do that.
I think it's good, just take it to court. Get it over with.
So I guess my question is, if the boat's removed before you go to court,
Doesn't matter, we issued the ticket now. It still goes to court. Because we're gonna brief the thing and argue. It doesn't get put in there next year.
Well, I would go further and, I mean,
don't you have to You go to circuit court, they have that kind of action. to
I know, I
Kind of
can,
prohibit somebody from doing.
no, we can go district court's cheaper and it's faster.
I mean, I think since the Bernards were unresponsive to the letter that was sent to them, I would personally be inclined of revoking the ability to put that dock out. And then we only have one, we don't have to worry about it, this becomes less of an issue, but that's my opinion only. And I think we need to see how the court stuff plays out, but I mean, they had plenty of time to take it out and do it, and they didn't comply with it. So,
No, and
Well, but to be able to take that dock out, I think it's a circuit court action. I don't think it's a district court action.
yeah, well, however it needs to happen, we have the ability in our ordinance to revoke
That's
the
right.
permission to put it out. So, but we can cross that bridge when we get to it.
I'm just asking the board permission. I think we go forward is all I'm saying. And, you know, instead of waiting for the time frame, because the lift was there all summer. When in fact, at two different meetings with their attorneys was told you can't have a lift, and the old ordinance even says that, wrote-in ordinance says that, and in the minutes, when they got permission to put a dock out, it says dock only.
No, I know.
And then they went and put a boat after that, so I don't think.
And further, I guess, maybe for another meeting, but that road end doesn't have any of the galvanized posts. I don't know if it ever had them, if they got taken down, if they got washed out, but
We got posts.
we need to get that survey to put the posts back in.
I got posts at my farm.
So that, I mean, I would support doing that. We could do a
Okay.
motion for that. Now, I don't know if we have a survey, but I think the court stuff needs to play itself out. And we can do that next spring even, but it should be marked.
Okay, I agree with that. So a consensus of the board, tell Tom to go forward. That's all I need. I don't need a motion.
Yes.
Okay, good enough. Mr. DeVoe, I went to see Mr. DeVoe. He has not put his fence up yet. I told him we're gonna hire someone to construct the fence if he doesn't get it up. This last week, he told me he was gonna start working on it. I don't see any fence up. I'm having a very hard time finding anybody to put a fence up as a contractor. So,
I don't know, my neighbor got a 1 mile long fence around his 160 acres put up.
yeah, deer fence.
It's chain link fence. I'm just saying, you can get.
Not
them.
chain link, well, this is
I
solid.
understand that, but you
Oh.
can get contractors to do it. But before we do that, we have to go inventory everything that's there.
Okay,
Was pretty clear from the attorney. So I'll create some forms for, and to me, I think you may need to get the sheriff involved to be able to go on there, let his attorney know that we're gonna come inventory this stuff. But I think we need to take a picture of everything, record the VIN number and or license plate number or the hull number. So we've got full and complete documentation of what he's got there. And then just have that for the file in case we ever need it. Cause some of them, may or may not be his, and there might be other violations that end up coming up, but that way, we've got it all on nice, each sheet of paper is one vehicle or boat.
You know, what I found out is he has cars with a VIN, but the license doesn't match it, borrow the license from something else and stuck it in there.
So we should get pictures of the VINs and pictures of the plates if they're on there, and a picture of the vehicle, picture of the boat and the whole identification number. And maybe the deputy supervisor would be willing to help out with that
okay,
potentially. But
Yeah.
I just need to do a form of it. I think that's gotta be the first step according to Tom.
okay,
And then from there, I don't know where it goes from there, but that's the first step.
okay. All right, you do that?
What's that?
You work on a form?
I'll make the form.
No, I know the rest you're not gonna do. I figured that much out already. Read between the lines there. Okay, Huck fence, so that, I have to look at the document, but Mr. Huck moved his fence. This is on the south side, yeah, okay, yes, just not where he was supposed to. So it's still in the road right away by 6 feet.
So there's survey,
Yeah, oh, yeah.
You could get a also build a fence.
the why,
I can't tell you why. I'm just telling you it's not where it's supposed to be. So it's 6 feet or 8 feet into the road right away yet. I have no idea why they didn't follow what they were supposed to do. Jody and Katie are on that because it's still a zoning issue. So he's applied for another land use permit. And she went out there and said, well, this is still in violation. So she can't act on his other land use permit because there's an outstanding violation on the current one. So she told him you have to, so I just talked to her today and she had not received a response back from him. I don't know what to do.
I'm gonna assume there are survey stakes or something there for her to be that adamant that she knows it's in the wrong position.
We measured it all. It's all in the court documents.
Just checking.
They moved it back even with the house, but the house was in the road right away to begin with by 10 feet, I think, or something to that effect. I don't know the exact measurements. So I'm gonna let it play out with them before I get Tom involved again. We've already spent, God, I don't even wanna know how much. $10,000 on this case?
So what
Probably.
so.
It's still a zoning.
This is in Jody's hands right now.
Katie and Jody both, I called them both this afternoon and said, do something. And she said, we're back and forth in emails. And I'm gonna send him a letter and tell him he needs to move the fence. It's still not where it's supposed to be according to the court order.
Okay, so this is more an agenda. item to
Enforcement.
Inform us, there's no action for us to take.
I don't wanna go back to court immediately. No, why? Shouldn't have to. It's already been through court once. I almost thought about going and seeing the guy tomorrow to find out whatever. Midway Road End,
So
I'm gonna give that one.
we reported last month that we met with one of the adjacent property owners. We need to meet with the other adjacent property owner. And then after that, I think we can figure out what the path forward is on that. So I don't know, Dave, is that something, do you know Joni or any of the Holmans? No? Okay. So I think we have a contact information for them, so I can make the call and
Can call.
figure out and set up the meeting. I mean, they did remove survey stakes. So at some point, that may have to get remarked on one side, but, I think the question, we have to also, I think, have to bring the state into this because the state is the one that,
Made it
deeded the public access, and I do have, I got a name of a contact person to talk to, so I will happy to reach out to them to find out, this is a pre-existing encroachment in this right of way. Are you okay with that? If we still maintain public access around the side, and then it gets more complicated because they actually own the parcel, so there's gonna be some legal fees probably incurred. I'm happy to take point on this because I want to get the resolve that's been on the agenda for a while, but it's gonna be complicated. So just knowing that, just kind of that's where it is at. It's more of an update.
That's all.
The county said they were gonna redo the parcel map though, so it doesn't show as going straight through the yard. So that's good.
Okay, I think that's good. That's good enough. Bayview paving, we actually done that cost recovery ordinance. Rob, are we gonna revisit that too?
Yeah, hopefully next meeting we'll have something put together.
Good deal. Okay. Fire, while recycling, we're done with that. How about fire department report? Sir? On file here?
Yeah.
Yeah. You want anything to add or no, you're good?
No.
Very good. Zoning administrator, I didn't get a separate report, did you?
Yeah, I put it in,
I didn't see it. Okay.
so, what I did was they update this contact tracking and then previously people had trouble parsing out the last, so I just put July and August in here, so I included that. Then there's an enforcement report. Just for our information, I don't know if we're gonna be getting that monthly or not. They have a new guy. It's changed format over the years. There was a question about whether we should put it in, but I think it's important for the public to see that we're taking action on this stuff. It just has addresses on it.
Right.
I do have a concern, and I've mentioned this before with the county contract. I don't think that they are out here frequently enough looking at open
Problems.
permits, open when somebody makes a complaint. I don't feel like we're getting the value for our contract and that we're paying them a lot of money to do that. So at some point, I think we need to talk to Katie and Jody and say, what are we doing here? Cause there's stuff that's slipping through the cracks from time to time. Or taking longer than it should, or could have been prevented had they been out earlier and looked or more frequently. And if we had an in-house zoning administrator, that's what they would be doing. So that's my comment.
Yeah, which we did before until we lost them. I know. Okay, that's fine. I have no problem revisiting the whole thing, so, roads, we wanna say anything about roads other than we did already? I think so. I think that was a very good thing. Planning commission. Oh, he left.
He went on to dinner.
I don't blame them. I'd like to go, can I leave? 6 o'clock?
Well, we didn't.
You didn't have a meeting, right?
This month, so.
Oh,
yeah,
that's
we have
why.
a Meeting this month.
Okay,
So you're the township board rep, and I asked Dave last meeting to kind of keep the Portage Point Inn on the front burner.
So he had written me an email about having a meeting, and I said, sure. He asked if I would be willing to sit in on it, I said, sure. And I had not heard from him, so I emailed him yesterday or the day before and said, I had to contact him about two things, but I said, where are we at with this? And then just tonight, he asked me what my schedule was. So.
did you tell him the 20th was okay? Did you
Did I what?
tell him the 20th was okay? You didn't tell him, okay,
I have to, so,
that's fine.
so I told him I would get back.
Okay, so that's
Okay.
in process.
Yeah, it's in
Yeah.
process, schedule, I think
I mean, at least it's.
Bob's gonna be up here after the
Okay.
20th, that's why, so that's why I asked him the date, okay. Assessor and board review, just out doing just the normal stuff, I think everything's been looked at. Just looking at sales now, and we're gonna go back and revisit new constructions, but probably not till next month. I don't know what the rate of, I don't think they come out with the multiplier yet, I haven't heard, so I should assume it's gonna be high, but
Less than 5, but more than 3 probably.
there you go, less than 5 and more than 3. Cause 5 is the max, otherwise, that's it. Parks and Rec. Vic,
So,
how nice of you.
we had our, yeah, well, this is where I am on the schedule.
I know.
We had our Parks and Rec meeting on Friday, and I published the meeting minutes this morning. As you guys all know, there's been a lot of discussion about the trails feasibility study. So if you're interested, I thought what we could do is take a look at the website. When I got wind of all of the discussion back and forth, what I've attempted to do is go to the township website within Parks and Rec and build a page that is about the feasibility study, and then do my best to go back through history and walk through every step along the way, not justifying, just explaining what's happened so that it's all out there. In reality, it's all out there right now, and I put the last parts of it this morning, which include the endowment fund grant, some of the background information, that sort of thing. So it's really up to you guys whether you want me to take you through it or whether having it out there for public view is adequate, but I'm happy to do my best either way.
I commend you for doing all that, Vic. I think it would be really helpful because I think for purposes of being videotaped and people to watch later to kind of get a full picture of what's going on. So I think it'd be useful if you walk through it a little bit.
It's fairly granular, so if you don't mind and you want me to do that, I need to get up there and kind of go through the work.
Well, I think that's on, I mean, you can show us what's on the webpage, but I think maybe just recapping a history and kind of where we're at and how we got here. 'Cause I think there's a lot of confusion about, well, this is a done deal, and there's never an intent on, it's not a done deal.
Clearly, clearly,
So I think
clearly.
there's a lot of misinformation that needs to be cleared up.
So I've done my best, and if you look through it, there's a lot of detail there. Why don't I just begin, and if you find that I'm giving you too much information, then fine, but I'll just do my best to get you up to speed.
I'm gonna give you the mouse, and I'm gonna take a 2 minutes.
Yeah. Is it possible for me to blow this up?
Yeah.
Good. Well, I'm gonna start, and then he'll blow it up. About this time every year, August or so, it's when we begin budget discussions. And with respect to the Parks and Rec budget, and by the way, my name is Vic Pratt. I volunteered to be on Parks and Rec in 2022, and shortly thereafter was drafted into the role of chairman. For the last couple of years, starting in August, I asked the people on Parks and Rec, get your brainstorming hats on. What do you want us to do in the coming year with respect to Parks and Rec? And as you come back with your ideas, come back with what you think it's going to cost. And I don't ask them to talk about the maintenance and stuff, because Bob and Al Taylor and I kind of helped me through that, and I'll do an estimate of what maintenance is gonna be, contract services, and Shelley has always helped in the past as well. But I asked them, think about big projects, things that we want to get done, and as you're going through that, come back to the meeting with your best guesstimate of what it's gonna cost in terms of capital expenditure. What do we need to spend to do whatever that is? And then in terms of professional services, because what I'm learning as I got into this is, it doesn't seem like a government can do anything unless they have some company like Spicer or somebody do an engineering thing. It's all gotta be official and such. So come to me with your ideas, come to me with what you think it's gonna cost for professional services and for spending. So go up to the top. This year, last year, about this time, the group came back and said, well, you know, in the master plan, the township master plan, the very top thing is let's figure out a trail. And so one of the members of our committee said, why don't I take that on? And we guesstimated that there wouldn't be any capital expense this year, but there would be professional services. So what's professional services? That's getting somebody to give us an estimate. And this year it's feasibility. So that's how we started. Let's just scroll up a little bit. And it was, yeah, I've got someone who's gonna take this project on, and this person has said that I'm gonna devote 20, 30 hours a month, so go for it. I'm not directly on that committee, but as the chairman, everything is ultimately my responsible. That's why I'm gonna take you through what we've done. In the township authorization, this is just a link that goes to the board meeting minutes that said, okay, it's all right. First of all, here's our budget of $41,500 for professional services. The board said, nope, you only get 30. Included that was things like getting engineering studies done, getting grant writing assistance, that sort of thing. We got the $30,000. In that was a line item, $15,000 for the feasibility subject for this project. We actually spent $13,250 on the initial portion of it. That was approved at this meeting. There's been a lot of discussion about the village council, and we want to make sure everybody knows the village council's made no financial commitment at all. It's just the board. So what happened? This group, this guy who took the lead said, well, who should be on this? Well, let's work with the village. It'll be planning for the village and parks for the village, planning for the township parks. So that's the team. That's the feasibility team. And that team has spent a great deal of time doing, getting to learn what they need to do. So could you click community involvement? Those people went out and met with all of these people. And essentially what they said is, we don't know what we're doing, and you guys are professionals. Can you give us some guidance along the way? So in the course of meeting with all these people and gathering all the information, they also got with a company that provided this feasibility study. There were 3 companies that gave a bid. We, Parks and Rec, recommended to the board that they choose one. A lot of it was because it was within our budget. And so that's who we went with. So these are the people that we worked with. Go back to the learning the process. So then there was a lot of discussion going on, because in these meetings between 4 people and talking to all those other people, it became aware in the public. And so the public got the impression that these guys were going down a path and we need to get involved. In reality, what we're doing is trying to get these say that we could bring back to the board and say, can we even go down this road? So we put out this public review announcement, which said, please come visit us. I think it was the 29th. And then at the 29th, there was a bunch of documents that were on boards, storyboards. The agency that we used said, you can do this in one of 2 ways. You can have a meeting and present and then get questions, or you can do a storyboard format where you have all the things that we've talked about and people walk through, and they recommended that'd be a good idea. So, okay, we'll go with it. So, and then there's a thank you notification. So all this is going on with the intent of is it even possible, and should we go forward? Now, one thing I will comment, and the first thing I'm going to say is I'm not going to criticize the process that these people took. In fact, what I'm gonna do is say thank you for spending 100 hours to do this, and had I given this project to 10 people, they would have had 10 different ways of doing it. And I'm not gonna criticize the way it's done, because I know at the end we have guardrails, and the guardrails are, we're not gonna do anything unless the public likes it. I think what I would have done differently, and I almost hesitate saying this, is because I'm Monday morning quarterbacking, but my opinion is maybe we should have had 2 or 3 options out there. I think that would have satisfied a whole lot of people, but we didn't, and I'm good with it. So next subject was, well, there's a health endowment fund out there. What's going on with that? So in this section of the website where I'm trying to get everybody up to speed, this, I believe, is just a link to a board meeting on May 8th. And if you look at the May 8th board meeting minutes and go to Parks and Rec, it's like one sentence. It says, Parks and Rec is moving forward with the grant request. And so I agree, that's not a lot of background information, but that's the way the meeting minutes were. So as I was developing this site, I thought, well, every time I come to a township board meeting, I have the minutes done, and then I have my ask list, the things that I want them to work on. So I went back and pulled out my ask list, and in that ask list, it said, it's a May 6th deadline. It would have been helpful if we could include the feasibility study, but it's not done. And if we don't go for this bid, we're out for a year. If we're out for a year, we're gonna miss the MDOT DAT or whatever the grant is, the TAP grant. And so I made a decision, go for it. And so they submitted the grant. We told the board that we submitted the grant. Not a lot of detail, but that's what happened. So in all of this wording, it's essentially trying to get you up to speed. The grant is for $100,800. It's going to be used to finalize the engineering requirement for a trail system. It's going to be awarded to an accredited firm. Unless there's something severely wrong with the original firm, we would probably use them again, but the board's going to make that decision. And it is during this phase that we're going to have a trail plan, a specific plan. Whether it's one side of the street or the other side of the street, whether it's whatever it is, it's going to be detailed. And it's in this plan where we get to that level of detail, not the feasibility study. And it would have been great if we could have come with a feasibility study, given all this to the board, and they say, go forward, and then we go and do a endowment fund. But we didn't have time, so we just did. One thing I want to point out is in that grant, the way it was written, the guardrails were really put in. All the discussion about, are they hiding things or not hiding things. In it, widespread community involvement is built into the engineering grant submission. Click that, go to the entire grant submission, every single word. And you can find all kinds of words if you want to, go for it. But it has a specific requirement, quote, conduct a comprehensive community needs assessment through surveys, focus groups, and interviews to understand the specific requirements and aspirations regarding walkability in the target area. Next, we'll establish a multi-stakeholder engagement framework involving residents, local businesses, civic organizations, and government agencies. Through regular workshops, meetings, workshops, online platforms, we'll facilitate meaningful idea sharing. It's all there. Everything you're asking for, it's in the next phase. So I wish it could have been in sequence. It's not, but I'm doing the best I can. Oh, and by the way, tomorrow we find out. So we'll see. Dave had to submit a letter. If you go into that grant, you'll see the first section is, your idea looks good. We need some more information. We need a letter from somebody. I forget exactly what it says, but you can go look at it. And so we approached Dave. Parks and Rec approached Dave. My change would have been I wouldn't have put Dave in that position. I would have come to a board meeting with a letter made them all vote, and then we would have gone. We didn't do that, mea culpa. But Dave signed the letter for us. Now, there is no obligation in that letter other than the words that saying we're committed to go forward, but there's no actual commitment. So anyway, next steps. Compilation of public review session feedback underway and publication of that feedback. I don't have the date yet. Publication of alternatives and then public review and input sessions. So that's all coming. Funding. All of these words say that there's a planning document out there and you can go look at it. In that planning document, they used $3 million. I don't know if it's 2, I don't know if it's 4, they used 3 million. And they worked their way backwards to, if that's the case, then there's a match that's gonna be required for 600 grand. Well, where do we get that? Well, we try to get a grant to get the matching funds for the first grant. And we're hopeful that MCCF would be a participant. They've been one of the working partners all along. They really like the idea of putting trails and so on and so forth. So we think we could get half of it covered. Maybe if we spread it over the course of years and they kind of have a $300,000 cap, we could get them to do it 2 years in a row and that could get it all covered. But those are the things that we'll have to work out. Right now, we're at a point where tomorrow we find out whether we get this. If we don't, I'm done for a while. Maybe we go look somewhere else for some other funding, but you know, at this point, I'm kind of worn out. But anyway, that's where we are. I think every detail you want to possibly know is out there. I'm not going to address specific, we should have parking, we shouldn't have parking. That's over my pay grade. And that'll all come out in all of those meetings that I said that we've forced ourselves to have. So that's where we are. That's Dave's letter. I don't know if there's anything else in there. I tried to get as much as I could. I think I'll take Joe's note and stick it out there, say this is public input. And then I'll also ask that committee before it goes out there to look at his note and then address each of those items. So maybe there'll be two notes out there. So
I can give that to you in a Word format. That would help. Or
I was told this morning that he has that latest version. He's already been.
No.
So you're making updates almost all the time?
I'm updating it as I learn things. Number one, I'm very appreciative of your efforts here. I've monitored them. The questions and concerns document I gave you today was modified this afternoon based upon.
So I don't have the latest version.
And that's what I'm saying.
You have Rick's email address, right?
No, I don't. But I can give you these documents in a Word or PDF format.
So if you go on our website in Parks and Rec, would you go to the main Parks and Rec site?
Joe, did you see this?
And down into questions and answers or down a little bit.
Modified.
No, not this part, just the main Parks and Rec. One of the frequently asked questions is, how can I contact Parks and Rec? And if you'll send it to there, it will make its way to me. And anybody who wants to contact Parks and Rec, that's how you do it. Okay, that's all I got. Okay.
I have one question, because I think it's really important that we are clear on this. Mrs. Noonan mentioned, oh, I've heard that you guys are gonna be condemning property and taking our property, and I just want to confirm that anything on this trail is gonna be proposed within the right of way. Is that accurate at this point? We've not talked about going outside of any existing road right of way. So condemnation isn't even on the table. And
No.
I don't think anybody here would support condemnation. That doesn't make sense when you have a road right of way.
My opinion, again, I'm not on the committee, but they listen to me.
It's never been brought up.
Correct.
No, never, ever been brought up. And so there's talk about, well, do you do it from Crescent Beach into the 8 Mile? Do you do it from Bayview into, say, 4th Street?
The village limits.
Well, see, village limits is way the hell out there.
Prospect.
And when they come across down that hill, they're coming down that hill fast. So really something needs to be done on M22. And as soon as you do it on M22, you're in village. So, I mean, we're kind of married to the village in this project. We may not do anything in the city. I mean,
Downtown.
downtown.
Yeah.
But anyway, those are all the options. I have no preconceived notion. I really don't. Just whatever you want, that's what we're gonna try for, as long as these people agree with it and we can find the funding to make it happen, because there's gonna be tax dollars spent.
So again, I appreciate what you've created, updating. And where I was coming from as a village resident was to date, right now as we sit here, the feasibility study has never talked to a single business owner or directly.
I hear you.
No, I'm asking you, carry that message back. A lot of the fear, the unknown, the controversy comes because it blindsided. I mean, when I went to businesses and said, have you heard about this? They said,
Joe, I hear you, but their view is, this was a small group of people associated with two, government entities thinking, whether she can go forward with it. And when all of this input started flowing at them, it was, we don't have any plans in place. We're just coming up with a straw dog. And so my opinion is the criticism is premature, because I don't think we're getting to the point we're gonna do it until we get to this next phase of the endowment fund, when we take it right down to the point where, here's what we're gonna do. And that doesn't come until we get all the feedback back and figure out how we're gonna do the next session. What's unanswered at this point is, how are we gonna do the feedback? And right now, my feeling is, because there, I think, is this apparent mistrust, I don't think that Parks and Rec should be the people that compile all of the information from that survey. I don't want that responsibility. I think we need to go back to Gordy Frazier and say, well, this wasn't in your bid. I'd like the board to authorize another $1,000 and have them compile it for us.
Just a quick suggestion. I understood that there were about 120 surveys filled out, that you ran out of forms. Why not just scan all of them, PDF, and let everybody just scan through it themselves?
well, and here's the problem with the survey. The survey asks if I'm going to use it, what I'll use it for, but it never told me what the hell I'm gonna use. It was like saying, will you drive a car into Manistee and back? Sure, I'll do it. How often will you do it? As often as I can. By the way, what kind of car is it? And that, to me, the survey.
All of this is fair criticism, but remember, the guardrails are, we're not going forward until we come up with what we get, what we learned. We put that into the next steps, and then we present it to you. So yes, could it be done differently? Okay, I get it.
Appreciate it.
I've talked to you about this before, Mary. I think the problem came in here, that wasn't you began it, you talked about the project going forward. And I think the problem is that the project was defined. And it was defined actually with drawings of what the project.
Dan, as I mentioned, I wish it would have been done differently, and I wish there would have been multiple proposals, but there were not. I apologize.
No.
That's what made it appear as though it was
Make
done.
an assumption of what I'm going to say, and I'll just let me say, I'm trying to be helpful. I think the problem here is that you have a defined project that you're gonna go forward with without having had people put the input that your current step that you say is going to happen, it should have been involved in. At this point, you have a concrete proposal. People have actually maps of what the road is going to look like and what the kind of what kind of zone markers are going to be, and where they've got it all. People that came to your presentation have got papers in their hands showing what it's going to look like. So there hasn't been the opportunity, in my opinion, for people to try to define the project going forward, which you're now saying is going to happen in the next step with the foundation. Those black letters that you showed up on that screen, that's what should have happened, in my opinion, before you even went there. Those are the kind of things that should happen there. And that's why people in the village and in the businesses and all around here, how did I get here?
As I said before, what I would have done differently, this would have had several alternatives. You wouldn't have had that one thing, because I agree with you. It appeared as though that was the plan, and that was a mistake. It shouldn't have been.
But that was the plan that people were reacting to. I get that. So how are you gonna stop that? How are you gonna How would you stop it now at this point? What would you say?
Well, are you saying the next time I assign somebody a project, how will I handle it, or what are we doing from here? Because I told you what we're doing from here.
Well, I think a simple thing to do would be let the public know that there's no definitive plan. All we have is an idea.
If they go out to that website, it is crystal clear.
And also, this is being videotaped, so that's why I asked him to go into great detail so people can watch this if they'd like to.
Your detail on the website is great. It does not make it clear that this is simply an idea. I gotta tell you, I've gone through.
Can I make it more clear than I have made it to this point?
A straightforward statement. This is a conceptual idea, not a finished plan. It requires, I mean,
Add that to your document. That document will get posted and our response to that will be there. We're not hiding from anything. If you have suggestions, Dan, give it to Joe. Joe, include it on your document. Send that document to the email address that I gave you, and that will go on the website. And I'll ask the team, if you have any comments with respect to that, please make your comments.
Hopefully this is constructive, and I think the idea to get the community more involved in this is just like host like a brainstorming session.
a focus group.
Well, open to the
Can
public.
you go back to the
with-
master
with
plan?
paper.
See that,
People can draw.
okay,
what they
we did
think.
that.
You'll go, keep going down.
Do you mind if I say something?
Go ahead.
I'm not directly involved.
A little bit further.
So Joe handed me the prior question and answer at a PLA.
Yeah, and it's modified slate.
Yeah, and then yesterday or the day before I was coming here and you asked me a few questions in the parking lot. The primary question was, how was a grant applied for without this being resolved? And I, at that time, said, I'm not trying to blow you off. I think my exact words were, I'm not trying to blow you off, but I can't answer that
Just you
question
weren't involved.
because I wasn't involved and I didn't know. And subsequent to that, I got a hold of Vic. And he was in the midst of doing all this, and I said, can I see some documents? Because I just, for my own benefit, want to understand what happened here. And I understand the passion of everybody here, which is really great that everybody cares that much. I think the real positives coming out of here is, one, we are addressing something in an original community engaged plan in our master plan. So we're moving forward with something that's not sitting on the shelf and hooray for everybody involved. That's really great. I think what else is great on both parts, people that are passionate and concerned about things not being answered, and those that work so hard. There's a lot of passion, a lot of hours involved, and everybody is really focusing on making things the best they can be. Unfortunately with that, I think because of the way things evolved, there may have been appearances that otherwise might not have existed if things would have been done differently. And you have a company that was hired. What was interesting to me when I think feasibility study, I wouldn't have thought of even a concept coming out of that. It would have been more like, could this possibly happen and under what conditions?
What would you like?
But again, that company did their thing the way they do it. So it's done, it's gone. And now we're trying to move forward. So my understanding is that, and so I did read the grant, and what else I found interesting is, that that about anybody could apply for this grant on behalf of the township. And that happens sometimes, because what happens is if you get approved, then you have the paperwork that you have to sign and somebody has to agree to. So maybe there's a policy process within the township that we need to look at and communicate to all our committees in the future about maybe the way to go about things. Just from a potentially committing or having it appear you're committing the township to something. The cool thing about it is that when I read the grant submission, the commitments for the next step, although I'm not gonna argue whether they should have been done before or not. I think are going to address the concerns about having open processes, focus groups, surveys, I think were mentioned,
Could you go up a little bit?
and so that'll happen. And
I'm sorry.
so I think the good thing is
Here.
there is a way that it's gonna move forward.
Yeah, so,
We may not even get through it, but I think the discussion is good because I think it makes us aware that maybe we need more education at committee levels of, hey, here's the process we need for, having the board look at grant submissions or, something like that. So it's just opened my eyes to like, okay, we got a bunch of cool people trying to do the right thing, but maybe we need to
well,
educate.
originally I was gonna say, if I gave 10 people an assignment and I gave them a very specific process they had to follow, and they didn't follow that process, that would be a problem. I did not. I don't have the bandwidth to give them all of that process. They went down that road. I'm not gonna criticize because I know how much time they've spent. And in this section here, it says, we're going to have involved residents, local businesses, civic organizations in the next and most critical phase.
No, I understand that, and I guess part of what I'm trying to say is we need to educate better. Which I have ideas about that, but that's for another meeting. But, to me, to just keep beating up on the issue isn't healthy for anybody at this point. I think the issues have been raised. I think we're addressing them. I think the township and the community are aware of them, and so
One more,
moving forward, the process will follow the grid.
only want to add that to the people that may or may not be listening, who have put in all this much time, please don't focus on the criticism. Thank you so much for everything that you've done.
Well, and I brought that up at the beginning too. I mean, I think there's a lot of hours in everybody's.
I think that's one other question, Vic.
Yep.
You mentioned the budget, so a little under, so like 13,000 has gone to Gordy Frazier.
Yeah, it's now up to the full 15,000.
How much has been spent on grant writing?
No, we're doing it ourselves.
None.
None.
We have $10,000 in the budget. I really want to begin doing that. The problem is that every time you go to a grant writer, like the grant writer that's used by Manistee County, they're busy writing grants for Manistee County, and so we haven't got a grant writer, down there. I'd really like to do that because I've done a few and I hate it. I just hate it. It's just not what I'm gonna do. And, Rick went through it too, and he might get most of the bill. So I'd like to get, we haven't spent any money.
I have one question. So the trail committee, subcommittee, whatever, was comprised of a couple of township people and a couple of village people? Okay, so you come here to every township board meeting, and give very thorough updates. I'm assuming the two members from the village were briefing the village council about what was going on?
No.
Okay,
Well,
so
one
time
of
out,
the members
let me finish,
is not
Joe,
part.
let me finish, please. So there's village members and village representation on this subcommittee that is shepherding the feasibility study. But yet there wasn't really good information flow back to the village. Is that what I'm understanding?
I cannot speak to that question.
Okay. So Joe, was there not good information flow back
I
to the
attend all
village?
the village council meetings. Rod Hudson is head of Parks and Recreation.
Mhm.
He has told Rick Allenby he is not a cheerleader or in favor of this. Chris Ford is our planning commissioner, but he's a township person, not a village person. And he's not briefed us on anything.
So who's the two people on the committee from the village?
Chris Ford and Rod Hudson.
Well, Rod didn't.
Were they appointed by the village council to the committee?
Nobody was appointed. Rod Hudson said he got stuck with it because he's the chair of the Parks Committee.
Okay,
So,
that answers
well, no, but I think the point I'm trying to make is, everybody's got to work in the same direction and row in the same direction. If information isn't flowing to the village, who's a partner potentially in this project, that's a problem. So we ought to correct that moving forward too. Through the village representation on that committee.
If you go to our main site and you see who's on our team, we have a member from the village that's on the team, and I would have to talk to him to find out about the communication with the village. I personally don't know.
And it shouldn't be your responsibility to go brief the village if they have representatives on the subcommittee.
But we have representatives on Parks and Rec, and I'm told that we have both Township and Village Planning and Parks. Apparently, it wasn't a willing marriage, but I was not aware of that.
And I have to add, Susan Halloran was at the project team meeting that I attended. And according to the village clerk, nobody knows how she got on that or attending it, but there's possibly 3 people that serve responsibilities
sure.
within the village
Somebody.
that are on that team.
Okay. I'll only address one thing that you guys all brought up, but this should have been discussed, that we've had planning visioning sessions down at Far Center for the master plan where there was 200 people showed up. This is probably before you were moved here, Joe, and I don't think Dan was here at that time. The Far Center was packed. This was one of the top things that people wanted looked at, right? Along with sewer. Obviously need to change the master plan and take those 2 things. If this fails because they don't want it, don't discuss it anymore. I'm gonna ask them to take sewer off. Cause it's a goal, but it really isn't a goal. Same as this, it's a goal, but it's not a real goal because when push comes to shove, they don't, you know what I'm saying?
Just to add to that, the village is currently doing a master plan, okay? The company writing it, conducted a SWOT analysis. And in the SWOT analysis, a bike trail never came up. Improved sidewalk, better walkability in the village, hot topic, that's what people wanted. And that's, when you read my questions and concerns, that's the one thing that comes out. And when I talked with Rick, when I talked with Dave Wallace, what I got back was, no, it's either all or nothing. It has to be bike and a walking trail. Can't just be a walking trail.
I think there was something to do with the money. But I don't know, but I something to do with, yeah, I don't want to get into that. It doesn't matter.
Those people not in the room, I
Yeah.
don't think that's appropriate.
No, I get that. And I'm not saying that.
I'd like to say that to underscore that, I think, we need to be careful, it's kind of the cart before the horse, the money before the project. I mean, it's a temptation, I think, to design a project because it enables one to access a certain pot of money. So.
Yeah, but that's only if you match the money, Dan. So that's another issue that everyone would have to vote. You know what I mean? You'd have to have matching funds and that has to come back to the board. It's have to come to the village board and township board. It wouldn't be enticing from the standpoint of you wouldn't automatically just do it.
To get funding for a sidewalk, that's not as exciting, I don't think, to the state of Michigan as the the $3 million project that's been floated.
The state was in attendance, MDOT was in attendance, and at the conclusion of the meeting, there was a very informal meeting between the agency that did all this, and one of the things that has to be considered is if you make these various suggestions, these different routes, how will that affect the TAP grant, and will it then qualify? So these are all things that have to be added into the discussion, and again, that's gonna clearly come out in the next phase.
Right, okay. All right, I'm moving on. We'll never get out of it. I'd like to go home tonight. Invasive species, do we have anything?
Sure, I'll make it as short as I can.
Okay.
So last meeting, you may remember I reported that the committee, approved a recommendation from, PLM to treat starry stonewort and European frogbit. Just kind of like a little bit on frogbit, as of our meeting of August 26th, they had already hand pulled 4,500 100-pound bags. So that's how much there was, and they weren't done. So that is continuing. They did find more starry stonewort, which the committee agreed to have them move forward with that treatment with the same type of systemic herbicide that was recommended for the treatment the previous month. Assuming that the weather is fine, they will be doing the treatment next Wednesday. If not, it will be sometime during the week. They also found Eurasian Eurasian water milfoil. And again, a lot of these are like around the marina, the DNR launch and all of that, and recommended treating 4 acres in total at an estimated cost of $7,300. The motion failed for them to move forward with that on committee level, primarily because there was a discussion that Mark Tonello had written a letter. And for those that don't know, he's a biologist, stating that the winter could in effect kill it. And so we would be wasting money. And that caused a lot of pause. We have a meeting this month. I don't know if that motion will resurface because there's been a lot of research done by a few of the committee members, including myself. But at this point, that is not.
So why would winter kill that there, but nowhere else when it's on the lake? What's the reasoning? Shallow?
Because Mark Tonello says that. But when I saw that, I mean, and again, I'm new to the committee, that comment was made. I asked to see the letter, and after getting the letter, I've spent probably about 12 hours researching this, and I'm not finding anything that supports that
What
statement.
does the lake manager say?
The lake manager didn't say that it couldn't happen, but probably said more similarly the things that I found, which say, I mean, one, the temperature has to be very, very cold, but also there is nothing that I could find, some of which I called Scott, or I emailed Scott Heinzelman, because he was copied on Mark Tonello's letter. And I said, listen, I said, I know you, I know Mark a little bit, but I know you better. Direct me to information that supports what you wrote in the letter. And he said, well, there is nothing that supports that I think I can direct you to. But here, let me have you look at all these things. Well, part of what he had me send, which I don't even know if he realized it, really disagreed with some things Mark said. So I think we're gonna revisit it, but it will not be true.
Let's get the lake manager's input, because I understand if it could be killed, but there must be a circumstance they must be referencing for him to say that. Like, is it shallow? Is it something to do with the depth of the water? I mean, what's different? The winter could be colder? I mean, I don't know. It's kind of an open-ended
His
thing.
point is, it's the fact that it is, the way that milfoil could react to cold weather. That was it.
Well, it gets cold here in the winter.
And the caution was, don't waste your money.
Not last winter.
No, yes, it was.
No, I understand, but
Okay.
so it probably.
Here's another thing that came up, and I don't know if there's any truth to this. So someone got on my case yesterday about story, what's the name of it?
Starry Stonewall.
And what's the other one? That they said the turtles eat that, and we're killing all that, and we're losing all the turtles. I don't have a clue. I'm just telling you
The
what.
frog bit?
Huh?
The frog bit?
Yes.
They're hand pulling?
I guess, one or the other, and I don't have any idea. Never heard that from anybody. The
That,
turtles eat it?
that I cannot address.
Okay.
I do not know that.
Okay.
Well, Cindy, that my only comment is, I'm glad that the committee's having robust discussions and trying to do a good job of advising the board as to how to proceed. Milfoil is one of those things that if it, it leaps and then or it creeps and then it leaps, and, if it doesn't die off over the winter and we don't treat it, then we're gonna have a lot bigger problem next year. And we've done a really good job, if you look at the graphs over time, bringing that down and keeping it under control. So I'm a little bit nervous that could be a decision that becomes more costly next year.
Cause the 4 acres,
Yeah, I understand.
4 acres goes to 8, or, I mean, what did I don't remember, Bob, the first year we ever treated milfoil. Do you remember the dollar amount? It was a lot of money, wasn't it? 86,000.
Yeah, I understand the concerns.
Okay.
And like I said, I was trying to weigh that, but again, I being
Okay.
given information that I had no way to dispute until after the meeting when I could look at
Okay.
it.
Okay.
I have asked to have it revisited because I want to have another discussion, because I didn't find anything that supported it. And then just as a separate thing, one of the things that I personally did not like that was in the letter is there was a reference to lake management companies gouging communities, which to me was unprofessional at minimum, but also, I mean, that was a decision made to privatize that. I mean, and they should be able to make a profit. I mean, so there were a lot of issues, I think, at play, but I can't find anything that supports the argument that was given.
Okay.
Well, I have one more question. Is our reporting secretary taking the minutes for that committee?
Yes, she is.
Okay, they're not getting to us. Maybe they're getting to the clerk and they haven't been distributed.
So, okay, so you'll see our last month's meeting minutes are posted.
Okay,
I contacted Michelle, I contacted our chair, said, listen, I don't know what's going on. Because when I was new to the committee, I only saw one set of minutes online. So, Michelle has said she did send them. Not gonna argue whether she did or not. I said, do me a favor, send me all the minutes. I'm gonna get them posted. The only thing that I don't like right now is none of the minutes are signed, so I wanna get them signed before I post them. So
Thank you for
that's
doing
kind of what I've been working on this week when I was in here.
I don't sign mine.
it's a best practice to sign them. So.
Yeah, when they're a draft, it's no problem, but to me, once they are approved, they should be signed. And, you know, the other thing I found out on our site, a lot of people have been posting approved minutes with the word draft still on them. Shouldn't be on them, so I'm trying
Not
to,
mine, is it?
I don't know, I'm
No.
only focusing on the town, I'm only focusing on planning commission and invasive species, but, I'm just trying to clean it up.
Okay. Done?
Yep, done.
Thank you. Public comment. Anybody online still? Dan, go ahead.
I'm just thinking, you know, on the, I understand you're gonna be meeting with Bob Gazan on various issues, you know, in the context of the DeVoe property. The ball field isn't much better. You know,
We know, yeah, we know, I know. But
Well, and again, the SUP, he's supposed to have, was supposed to be screened from view by fencing and by an evergreen screen. That is not the case.
So Dan, I asked, I don't know if you were at the last meeting, and I think the Portage Point Inn, review of that permit, review of if there's violations, how is that gonna move forward is been kind of nipped around the edges, but it's time to address it head on. That's why I asked Dave if he would, you know, if there's a path forward for that, and I think Cindy confirmed there is. But I'm interested in getting that cleaned up and or having compliance as well, because there's a number of issues that have kind of slipped and I think need to be addressed.
Well, there's an equal protection issue.
Sure.
Mr. DeVoe could bring up.
Yeah, and Dan, part of what I referenced early is that the meeting that, Dave was trying to set up with me, Bob will be there, and it is to focus on the use of SUP.
I personally would like to see if Bob is wanting to continue with an SUP, a whole new special use permit be written that addresses all the concerns and supersedes everything else. I know the previous chair said, well, like little minor things we don't want to necessarily incorporate in the SUP, and we just have them as in the minutes of a meeting and stuff, but I think that gets really difficult for the public to review. So if we're gonna redo stuff, I'd like to see it totally redone. It's not hard to do, but then it's kind of like an ordinance that supersedes everything else. Here's what it is. All this other stuff we don't have to worry about because this is the current permit. Would be my recommendation, but that's up to the planning.
And we'll see what happens too, just,
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen in the meeting. so.
Right, exactly. You gotta wait till that happens.
Okay, anybody else? No?
Make a motion, we pay the bills.
Okay, is there a second?
So,
Second by Cindy, any discussion? None, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, that's carried. I got a correspondence from Libby. It's here, we should include, and and any other correspondence, I didn't get anything else, so. Other than that, I would adjourn if everyone's done. I'm adjourning.
so correspondence with Libby.